Dear Heavenly Father, first of all, Lord, we do thank you once again for, Lord God, just being the awesome God that you are. We continue to pray for our veterans, Lord. We continue to pray for our military, Lord God. We just pray and ask that you continue to be with them, Lord God, as they serve this great country, Lord God. Be with our law enforcement, Lord God. Be with our president, Lord God. Be with all the people in Washington, D.C. Give them wisdom, understanding, Lord God, as they make decisions concerning the people, Lord God. We just ask that you be with them, Lord God. Father, we just thank you, Lord God, for the people in the Panhandle, Lord God, as we continue to recover from Hurricane Michael. Continue to give us favor, Lord God, with the people who has the resources and to help us, Lord God. And Father, we thank you for our local leaders here in Gulf County. Continue to give us wisdom as we continue to lead and guide, Lord God, policy and the people here in this community, Lord God. We thank you for your wisdom. We thank you for our first responders. Bless the people of Gulf County, Lord. Bless this board as we conduct the business of the people, Lord God. Be with us. We thank you for your grace, your mercy, Lord. And Father, we just continue to give you praise, glory, and honor. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Amen. Join me in the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good morning to everyone. Welcome to the July 23rd, 2019 Board of County Commissioners meeting. At the end of the meeting, we have a set time set aside for anyone who would like to come before the board. So please make sure you fill out the form located behind Mr. Whitfield and Mr. Joe Paul. We ask that you fill those forms out, please. And just remember that your time is limited to 3 minutes as an individual and 5 minutes if you're representing a group. And please just make sure you remember, if you come before the board, just make sure you state your name for the record and your address for the record also, and who you're representing. At this time, we'll move straight on down to item 3, which is the consent agenda. This is where one vote covers multiple items in the consent agenda. So at this time, I ask the audience, if there's anybody in the public with any questions or concerns with the consent agenda. Anyone in the audience? All right. Being none, is there any staff members with any questions or concerns with the consent agenda? Any staff members? All right. Any board members with any questions or concerns with the consent agenda? All right. Being none, I entertain a motion that we accept the consent agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Motion by Commissioner Rogers.
Second.
Second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any further board discussion on this? Anyone in the public on this? All right. Any opposition to the motion? Motion passes 4-0. All right. Move right on down to item 4. Dr. Dusty May, Bay Saver, St. Joe Bay, Gulf County, Canal.
Good morning. My name's Dusty May. I'm here to represent Bay Savers. We're a group, non-political, economic-minded group of individuals here in Gulf County and Franklin County who are trying to develop we have developed a solution to some of the environmental problems and economic problems that we see in Port St. Joe, and I just want to jump right into my program.
Yes, sir.
This is normally a 30-minute process, but I'm going to do it in 10. So if y'all will give me that, I'm going to go. First, I want to put y'all at ease. What we don't want is we don't want any money from the county, and we don't want y'all to change any laws, and we don't want y'all to change any ordinances. So you can relax on that. We're just here to educate you right now. What we do want y'all to do is to understand what we're doing and hopefully get behind this and support it. This is not about making St. Joe Bay pretty or a better fishing spot, although we do hope those things will happen. This is about the economic survival of our part of coastal Florida. I think we now all realize the economic importance of clean, healthy water for tourism. Southwest Florida lost their entire summer season last year to red tide. Estimated losses exceed $130 million in revenue, and that's just in 12 counties. That's in the Tampa Tribune. Runoff issues on both the east and west coast of Florida around Lake Okeechobee have cost locals there another $100 million in lost revenues. And they're not sure when it'll happen again, but they know it will. We now know that runoff is a bigger problem than global warming in the Florida Keys for the coral reef die-off. And I don't know if you guys saw the News Herald the other day, but there's an article in here about Port St. Joe being the top fishing booker destination, which is, I don't know, huge for our tourism industry. There's also an article in here about the coral reef die-off down in the Keys, and they now know that runoff is the biggest problem. We also know it's well documented that the runoff is what's creating some of the biggest problems we're having with our red tide problems we're having. So we're here to talk a little bit about that. We have a governor who ran on clean water and won. So this is not just an environmental issue anymore, it's the economic life of coastal Florida at stake. Bay Sabres wants to educate everyone we know about the unique opportunity we have to prevent these kind of economic and environmental disasters from occurring here, and to correct the existing problems we have with one relatively simple solution. We're working with the Northwest Water Management District, Governor DeSantis, Senator Scott, Congressman Dunn. We're working with FWC, Dr. Eric Sutton, the director. We're working with him, and we're working with DEP. So we're involved with all these different state agencies, and we're just, again, trying to educate you guys about what we're doing. So if you'll give me just a minute, I'm going to explain the hydrology of our area. Basically, you have over here the Lake Wimico watershed. So everything from Highway 71 to the White City Canal, all the way up to Howard's Creek, and all the way back down here to where the Jackson River meets the Apalachicola River. Every drop of rainwater that falls in this area right here is supposed to go into Lake Wimico. 100 years ago, there was no connection between Lake Wimico and East Bay and St. Joe Bay. Searcy Creek, I don't know if you guys know Lake Wimico, but you got Double Bayou, Indian Bayou, Columbus, Depot Creek. This was Searcy Creek. Searcy Creek basically ended at White City, which is why Highway 71 is there. If you wanted to come to St. Joe, you had to go around Lake Wimico. You had to cross Searcy Creek right there. Well, 100 years ago, the Corps dredged Searcy Creek. Actually, they dredged from the mouth of the Jackson River through Lake Wimico, dredged out Searcy Creek, connected this body of water to the Weetapo Creek watershed, dredged out Weetapo Creek into East Bay. So they connected salt water to, there we go. They connected East Bay to the Lake Wimico. 1938, they completed this canal. Mr. Ball wanted to be connected to that, so they connected St. Joe Bay to that body of water. So now, since 1938, St. Joe Bay has been connected to the Apalachicola River floodplain. This is the Apalachicola River right here. So this Apalachicola River drains the entire eastern half of Alabama, the entire western half of Georgia, all the way up to southern North Carolina. So every drop of water that falls in that area is supposed to end up in that bay right there. That's where it's supposed to go. And up until 100 years ago, it did just that. Every drop of fresh water ended up right there. Well, 100 years ago, they connected it to salt water, and then 80 years ago, they connected it to St. Joe Bay. So now, when we get any kind of high water right here, this river comes down, it backs up, it goes up into the Apalachicola, up into Lake Wimico, comes up the canal, and comes out our canal right here, and is dumping fresh water into the mouth of the bay right there.
Hold on one second, Dr. Mee.
Yeah.
Can I
So
get
moved, Mr.
All right,
Chairman.
got a motion
Second,
to
Mr.
extend,
Chairman.
second by Commissioner McCrone. Any opposition?
going?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Before, no.
So, sorry about that. So anyway, just a quick hydrology of the bay. We know that a 20-foot river, our calculations show that we're getting over 5 billion gallons of fresh water every 24 hours at a 20-foot river. So rivers of different heights, you can get different flow rates. But those are the calculations that we have, 5 billion. You can argue about how much mud and sediment is in the gallon of water, and that argument continues today because it's not a concrete thing. But suffice it to say that there are billions of tons of sediment in the mouth of our bay right now that don't belong there. We know we've got core samples done by the Port Authority that show if you'll go to our website, you'll see the core samples. I mean, it's pretty crazy. We've got divers right now conducting some studies. Not only do we have sediment on the bottom, we have a 10-foot layer of suspended solids on the floor of our bay. So I don't have time to go into all the evidence, but our bay is heavily sedimented right now. Salinity has been studied. Salinity comes and goes. Sediment accumulates, and we've been accumulating sediment in the mouth of that bay. So runoff is one of the big problems. One of the big problems also is saltwater intrusion. River goes low over here. Now they don't manage this river for depth anymore. This water, salt water, now comes up here, goes through here. If you go to Lake Wimico or you spend any time up there, you know that we've lost a lot of our aquatic grasses up there. We used to winter 10,000 waterfowl in this lake. We don't winter any anymore. A lot of our natural grasses are gone. This has turned into more of a salt marsh environment now. And we're putting that salt water into Apalachicola Bay now, coming from this end. River goes low. We get a tropical storm. We get salt water. We're putting it in the bay. So I'm moving quick, trying to make this happen quickly. So we know that runoff is a problem. We know that saltwater intrusion is a problem. We know that Apalachicola Bay is losing 10 to 15% of its water flow during a flood coming out into St. Joe Bay. So they're losing 10 to 15% of their water flow during high water events. So the problem, runoff, massive runoff, saltwater intrusion, and saltwater intrusion into Apalachicola Bay. What's the solution? The solution is a lock. We're talking about building a lock right here, somewhere south of the T. This lock is a pretty straightforward solution. The Corps manages 241 locks in 195 places in the United States. They know how to build locks. They know how to manage locks. We know that the county benefits would be great. We know that it's going to be a $20 to $50 million public works project. There'll be 2 to 5 permanent federal jobs. There'll be ongoing maintenance to the lock. It would protect our drinking water, which, by the way, crosses the canal right there. So it'd be nice to have something separating our drinking water from saltwater intrusion and sea level rise. But the real economic value is Clearwater and St. Joe Bay, Windmark, St. Joe Beach, increased property values, increased tourism, and better fishing and scalloping, et cetera. I mean, so what we know is that that these particular clean water issues are critical for the environmental and the our economic lifeblood here. Funding. We have 2 projects in the DEP Restore Act portal that have been approved. Excuse me, not approved. They're certified. They would help with the funding of this lot. The Corps would also help with the funding of this lot. And like I say, what I'd like y'all to do is to go on our website, learn a little bit about this. We think it is the issue for the next 20 to 30 years in our county. And I know you guys are busy with doing other stuff, but this is huge. So thank you for your attention.
All right. Any questions for
Questions?
Dr. May?
Dusty, just one question. Where y'all have the locks
Yeah.
located there, would the Weetapo watershed go out East Bay? Is that what you're figuring on?
We think that the Weetapo watershed is relatively small compared
Okay.
to the Apalachicola River floodplain. And also, everything upstream of here has, we feel, a pretty good land steward, Desiree. They also have, the Corps specifies runoff issues. You know, when you go up there, you see those big pipes coming in. We feel like that the commercial interest of leaving this canal open and basically connected to Eastern Shipbuilding is more important than, and we also feel like the environmental issues of runoff up here can be addressed with existing laws, existing runoff laws that are on the books right now.
Okay, so you don't think far as the runoff from Weetapo would affect the Gulf County Canal as much as, okay.
Not as much. It's
Okay.
going to affect it
Okay.
some, absolutely. But when
Okay.
you look at the scope of the Apalachicola River floodplain and how huge it is compared to that, and then you know, obviously it'd be great to have 2 locks, but
Right.
but commercially we think connecting to East Bay is important for Gulf County right now, and we didn't want to try to interrupt that. And we don't think that the runoff in the Overstreet area is substantial enough, and it can be controlled by existing runoff legislation.
Okay.
So does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Dusty.
Thank y'all for letting me come
Yes,
early
sir.
and leave early. Appreciate it.
All right,
Thank you.
yes, sir. Thank you. Keep us posted. All right. We'll give Mr. Mayor a few minutes to clear out the way, and then we'll go to you, Mr. Hammond.
Mr. Chairman, I see the warden and Mr. Lawley here. I didn't get to talk to them before the meeting, but if they want to come give us an update on where they're at, if they'd like to this morning.
Yes, sir. Sound good.
Morning.
Good morning.
I'm Scott Payne, warden at Gulf Correctional Institution. And I don't know if I can follow up on that presentation right there, but very informative. And I can honestly say I learned something today. But as far as where we are, all of you know, we've been trying to keep you informed on the reconstruction status of our facility. We had started receiving inmates July 1st. And we're getting slow increments because, you know, we're still under reconstruction. We haven't supervised inmates for 10 months. So they're trying to ease the inmate population back onto us. Right now, our population count at the main unit is 225. We got 52 yesterday. We're expected to get about 40, 50 more later this week. But it's going to be a slow process right now, depending on staffing. Again, you know, the population is going to affect our staffing, but everything's going well. Talked to Mr. McDaniel earlier. Before the meeting, Representative Schoaf came out yesterday and visited, and it was unannounced. And a lot of the legislatures do that now. They don't plan the visit like they used to in the past. They just show up. So he came out, which is very encouraging because he spoke to all the staff. Every staff member he spoke to, he wanted to know what he could do and what we needed. And, you know, that was very encouraging to our staff that was working yesterday. But the annex, we're still in the reconstruction phase over there. We don't have a lot going on at the main unit right now. We do have 3 secure housing units, which is 2-man cells that are not operational yet. But we're looking at hopefully reconstruction on those will start sometime in September. And it's pretty major reconstruction, so we probably won't have those 3 dormitories. 2 of the 3 dormitories probably will not be operational till sometime probably end of the year, 1st of 2020. 1 secure housing unit's got to have ductwork cleaned or replaced, so that shouldn't take long. That's scheduled for September as well. The completion of the annex is on pace from the last construction meeting we had 3 or 4 weeks ago. Is the annex, they're looking at sometime September, end of September. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Payne?
Tell me, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
may I be recognized?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Again, Warden Payne and Mr. Lawley, thank you for giving us this update. And if any way this county can help you, in any way, you know, you just don't hesitate to call Mr. Hammond over here or Mr. Yeager, and we can make it happen. If you need somebody, they're having a very important meeting in Tallahassee, you need somebody to say, hey, I ought to have somebody from Gulf County up there. We can make it happen, can't we, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
We can do it. But anyway, that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. The only, the issue that we're having is a statewide issue. It's a national issue. The Department of Corrections here in the state of Florida is not the only correctional system throughout this country that's having issues with staffing. But the biggest thing that we need is support from our legislatures. And so, you know, we hadn't had pay raises in several years, and the ones we do get, they're minute, and the staff are just leaving. I've got 4 leaving this week, and I got 1 that's resigning. He's going to be an RN. He can make more money. And I got 3 that are returning to the facility they were temporarily assigned to. They want to go back over there. They like it. They can get overtime. And one of them, it was his drive. He lives in Vernon, so you know he told me he's spending $500–600 a week in gas, so he had to go back. The other 2, they want to go back because they can get all the overtime they want over there at Northwest. Right now, our overtime is minimum because we're somewhat adequately staffed. And so we have to keep overtime to a minimum. But that's where we need it. We need our local representatives and senators, and they're on board. They know our need. Representative Shows, like I said, he came out, he knows what we need, but they're just one voice in our government.
All right.
But I appreciate the assistance, and anything we can do as far as, work squads, any of y'all, any issues with work squads, Mark, y'all good?
Doing good.
Work squads? Okay.
Good.
The only thing I would like to present to you guys, I know we talked about it back in April, it was that bridge right there going into the prison. It is, it's pretty bad going out, and with transport buses coming in like they are, and the weight that's being on that bridge, we really need someone to look at. I don't know if they have or not. It's getting bad. If that bridge goes out, we're all in trouble.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
May I just a moment? Mr. Cawthorn, Warden, it's high on the list. That's in the district I represent, and I've been over that bridge several times, and it's not the only one. We've got our entire county, for the people, our entire county. There's not a county road that hadn't been damaged. I have one in my district. It went from a paved road to a gravel road for those big trucks. It wasn't designed to handle the tonnage put on, so we're going to have major paving, but
Yes,
that
sir,
is
I
very
understand
important,
that.
so it'll be
Yes,
one
sir.
of the top ones.
Yes, sir, I understand. We got a lot of issues.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
We first, to lay fear, the bridge is structurally fine. The top deck is what needs to be replaced, and we've had those. That bridge is about 26 or 27 years old, but the structure is fine underneath it. We have a grant in. We should know something in the next couple of weeks on that grant to pave from Highway 71, the store, all the way into the prison. The problem's going to be we're going to have to do a temporary bypass because it's a one-way in and one-way out. So that's going to be an expensive fix. But we're looking at probably a couple of week deal to redact that and get it done. And that is comparatively to building a new bridge is a minimal expense. We just did a similar repair on Salts Creek, and minimal cost. It's just
Well, I appreciate it.
just the decking, but the superstructure's fine underneath. It's basically 2 rail cars that are welded together, so it can, the weight is you can put 2 loaded log trucks on that and be safe. It's just the top deck, the plate needs to be replaced.
It's rated probably 200 tons.
Good deal. Okay. But that's all I've got.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I think you got a handout from Kerry. Number 1, it's just a cleanup from taking over the golf club to allow us to set the fees and the policies for the golf club. Need a motion for that, please.
All right, we'll entertain a motion that we allow the administrator to set these fees.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner McDaniel.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rogers. Any further board discussion on this? Anyone in the public on this? Setting fees. Anyone in the public? All right, any opposition? Motion passes 4-0.
On page 2, 3, and 4, our contractor for disaster assistance, CDR McGuire, has presented a proposal for 6 months, a task order. It's reimbursable. It's almost $300,000. My recommendation is we do it on a 90-day instead of a 180-day term. So July, August, and September, and then we'll come back again at the end of that time and look at that again if the board can authorize me to execute a 3-month task order for half of that amount.
Okay. I entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr.
All
Chairman.
right, motion by Commissioner Rogers.
Second.
Second by Commissioner McCrone. Any further board discussion on this? Anyone in the public on this? Anyone in the public? Any opposition to that motion? All right, motion passes 4-0.
That's all I've got this time, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, all right. Mr. Novak?
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I have one item right now. Your Material Transfer Industries LLC, which is Faraway Ports, I believe, also out on the canal. There was a tax lien on the property. Ms. Shirley moved forward with the auctioning of that with your authority. And they recently conducted an auction for the materials out there to satisfy some of that outstanding taxes. The highest bid that came in, there was three. There was one for $1 for the scrap metal to take it down and haul it off. There was a second bid of $35,000 from the auctioneer for the recovery, and then there was a third for $50,000. The firm that's working with Ms. Shirley asked for your authority to engage the company with the $50,000 auction amount, and if they can successfully arrange that, they'll sign an agreement, get a hold harmless, an indemnification agreement, and go out and start demoing the material transfer equipment out there for the scrap metal and haul it off. So they'll assume all those costs and responsibilities and also pay the county $50,000 minus the auctioneer or the third-party vendor that actually conducted it. Once that sum is put towards that debt that's owed to the county taxpayers, that outstanding sum will still be a lien against the property. So whenever it does transfer in the future, that sum will be recouped at that time. I know that they've discussed over the last 2 or 3 years of they're trying to sell it. At that time, that debt will be satisfied to the county. But in the meantime, with your permission and an authorizing vote, we'll go ahead and accept that highest bid and then recoup a portion of the outstanding taxes.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, board members, how do y'all feel about that? Move forward with it?
I don't think we have any other option.
No.
We don't. So move.
All right.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner McDaniel, second by Commissioner McCrone. Any further board discussion on this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
may
sir.
I?
Go ahead.
Mr. Attorney, what is the outstanding debt?
Yes, sir.
that MTI owes the people of
Yeah,
Gulf
I
County?
believe it's over $165,000 now.
Okay, 165.
And each year that the equipment or your property, it was assessed for the equipment on the property. So a few years back, obviously there was a great value to the equipment out there. And I don't know if it's changed hands or what have you, but the assessments have come down considerably. And now that equipment is considered essentially scrap metal is what it's going to be utilized for or repurposed towards that. But at the time, that's where the taxes were coming in at. They're considerably less now.
All right, sir. And the lien will be for the people of Gulf County. We will
Yes.
hold the lien.
Yes, sir. We secured the debt for those taxes
Good.
on
Okay.
the tax lien. And then you have the ability to auction off and sell this property, which we're going to do. And then all you're left with the raw land. So at this time, what we'll do is we'll apply that towards their debt. And then the tax lien that's outstanding on the property will be recouped whenever it's sold.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney.
And this is,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
just to clarify, this is personal property. If it were real estate taxes, they sell the tax deeds every year to recoup the money. And this is also, a portion of this is school board money, a portion of it's Northwest Florida Water Management District money, a portion of it's St. Joe Fire Control District money. So it'll be split between those, prorated, but it's a little bit of a gray area. You have to go in and actually seize the personal property of these businesses if they don't pay their taxes in a certain time. So, but again, it's not all the county's money. It's school board and different agencies.
And the administrator, I'm glad he offered that. It's important also, if you recall, the last 2 years, we've come to you with proposals from the owners of the property trying to work out some sort of payment plan. And the sums that were offered to you as a commission that you rejected at the time were nominal at best. They weren't going to put a dent in that debt. So they've proposed resolutions with you. They weren't going to help satisfy or reduce this, and that's why you moved to this, which is, it's not unprecedented, but it is a rare thing that you got to do it for the personal property, but it's something that was necessary. So we'll take that vote back to Ms. Shirley and let her know to proceed.
Okay, all right. Appreciate it. We got a motion by Commissioner McDaniel, second by Commissioner McCrone. Any further board discussion on this? Anyone in the public on MTI? Anyone in the public on this? All right, any opposition to the motion? All right, motion passes 4-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Yeager?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We wanted to go through a couple of things. Number one, as y'all know, we went out for RFQs for a couple of different things. One was the Dead Lakes Park operation and development. One was I think the kitchen and the bar at the country club. So in looking at those responses that came in last Thursday, the one on the Dead Lakes, we had 2 responses. Both of those responses were qualified responses and qualified bidders. What I think I would recommend to the board here is to allow the staff to actually interview both of those respondents and pick the one that's the best fit for us going forward to develop that park on out.
Okay.
So with that, I would ask for your permission to do that, and also permission for the chairman to sign whichever one that we feel is the best fit for Gulf County.
Okay, all right. All right, I entertain a motion. We'll allow them, the staff to work on this for us.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Rogers,
Second.
second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any further board discussion on this?
If I could, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
The only thing I'm wondering about, Warren, is we didn't put any kind of time limit. Did I see any time limit in that RFP or that RFQ?
There was not, and that's one of the things that we will go through the interview process, is to see what each one has the time limit to develop that thing out. So there'll be a lot of different things within that interview process that we're going to find out. We left it broad-based on purpose so we could get some ideas on each actual respondent on the time frame, what amount of dollars that they wanted to put in it, how they wanted to expand that park, and those type things. So in actuality, what we're basically doing is leasing that 30 acres for somebody to take the 30 acres and operate it as an RV park. And so we're hopeful that between the two that we interview, that one of them will outshine the other one, and how they're going to develop that park out and operate it, and be a good benefit for not only the community, but also for acquiring TDC taxes and all those different types of things. So we'll find that out through the interview process.
Also, too, I'd love to see a copy of those proposals. So,
We will certainly
All right.
get
Okay.
Carrie to get those out to you.
All right, anything else? Anyone in the public on this? Anyone in the public? All right, any opposition to that motion? Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next one was the restaurant for the country club. We had one qualified respondent. It was Provisions, and what we would ask is the same thing, is to allow us to work with Provisions to come up with a contract and give the chairman the authority to sign that, so we can get that also proceeding.
So moved.
All right, motion by Commissioner McDaniel.
second.
Second by Commissioner McCrone. Any further board discussion on this? All right. Anyone in the public on this? Anyone in the public? All right, any opposition to that motion? Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to also mention the beach restoration project, and it was still on go. The contractor is supposed to start mobilizing here the first or second week in August and begin pumping sand before the end of August. So hopefully we'll have that project done within 45 to 60 days with that. And the state is participating in that. They're going to fill in the rest of Eagle Harbor that hasn't already filled itself in. And so that will be a little bit longer process, but they'll use the same contractor on that. So that's ongoing. I actually we're going to meet with T.J. Dargan from FEMA tomorrow. He is the coordinating officer for this area. We're going to talk specifically about the berms that we're applying for, and what qualifies, what doesn't, and moving forward to that, and try to speed that process up to make sure that we get those berms out there. There's several folks out there that are pretty vulnerable to a storm, as we saw in that storm 2 weeks ago. So we need to move forward as quickly as possible, and we've asked TJ to meet with us, and he's going to bring all the appropriate folks down. So that'll happen tomorrow, and hopefully we can get that project moving forward. Other than that, I did want to mention that the golf course was progressing nicely. Commissioner McCrone asked me to kind of give an update on that. TDC and Kelly and Christie has done an awesome job in interim. We weren't expecting our pro to be here until August 1st. We actually, he sold his house quicker than he thought he would. He actually has started this week and is working out there already. That's going to be a tremendous help to us, and we already see the benefit of him being out there. That's certainly going to take a load off the TDC and off myself and others. We're working to make that a good facility for the whole community, and it's going well. We're very satisfied with the amount of play that we've had already since we took it over at the 1st of July, This is the slowest time of year for golf, but we're very satisfied with the amount of play, with the condition the course is in. So I just wanted to give you that update, and Commissioner McCrone, if you had anything else that you wanted me to mention on that.
I think everything's actually making some revenue.
Absolutely.
I have heard from the public, a lot of people's using the pool, the only public pool in the county. And I think the other day they said they had 80 kids or, people out of that pool the other day. And
So a big thing out there right now is actually a lot of folks rent that pool for different birthday parties and that kind of thing, probably on average of a couple a week right now. And it's this time of year. I know that's popular, but yes, there's a lot of folks that use that pool.
let me give kudos to Kelly does a great job. Christy has gone Christy Grove above and beyond, and she really worked hard. I just want to give her props this morning. So, but anyway,
Appreciate it. And Christy has done a great job.
Yeah, just let me add one thing, Mr. Yeager. You talking about that pool, and I also want to ask you. I'm gonna ask you a question about the Eagle Harbor also, but about the pool. The workforce is actually busing their kids right now because they couldn't get access to that facility. They're actually busing all their kids to Panama City for swimming lessons. So next year that'll be a great asset for workforce. They'll be able to bust the kids out here, for swimming lessons. So that would be that's a great asset.
Absolutely. We'll work with Kim Bodine on that.
You talked about about Eagle Harbor. So you said the state is going to use that same contractor?
Yes, they are.
Now, how far out are they on?
You mean as far as timeline?
Yeah.
It's going to be, in
Are they going to do it
conjunction.
at the same time as, okay.
They'll start on the southern end at the stump hole and move to the north.
Okay.
So they'll get all of our project done before they'll start on the
That's good.
state park, but they wanted to get that done so they could build the access road back to all their infrastructure that they have and get that park back moving, because it's one of the most visited parks in the state, and all their infrastructure as far as the RVs, RV park and all that is on the other side of that. So they're going to, once they get this sand put in, they're going to build the road and rehab that park.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. You still got the floor, sir.
I think, I did want to mention that U.S. Treasury was in town last week. They just wanted to review the projects that you had approved to go forward with our Pot 1 funds. They were very satisfied. They had actually did a complete tour. The sheriff was kind enough to give them a tour of the public safety building. They were very impressed with that, I think. So just to let you know that U.S. Treasury was in town last week.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I had.
When they going to be cutting the check?
Actually, they've already cut the check for
Okay.
that one, and as quickly as we can get that first invoice for that beach restoration project, we want to do that, because it's actually critical to get that bond paid down.
Good.
That we actually thought we were going to pay that bond off about a year ago, so we've been paying some extra interest on that. So we certainly took him out there and showed him that particular project too. We took him to Cape San Blas and showed him the issue. So.
Warren wouldn't let me meet with him. Warren's very nice. They may be the slowest government agency that I've ever seen, and that's saying something. Maybe NERDA right just a little bit slower than them on this other project, but anyway, Warren was nice to them, so maybe they'll continue to be nice, but they are not fast.
That's a great move, Mr. Yeager. Thank you. Yes, sir. Great move. All right, Ms. Summers. All right, Mr. Collinsworth, we're going to come back to you. Okay. Ms. Herring?
Yes, sir. I have two items. The first is a request to accept a Duke Energy Local Impact Grant Award. This was $2,000 TDC applied for to help with their anniversary event of Hurricane Michael. And I just request the acceptance of that grant award.
All right, I entertain the motion. We accept that.
so move.
Motion by Commissioner McCrone, second by Commissioner Rogers. Any further board discussion on this? Anyone in the public on this accepting this award? All right, any opposition to that motion? Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. My other item is, this is for a scrap grant, Canal Street. Robertson Roberts has a change order. It is actually a reduction of $1,082.91 to bring the new contract amount down to $140,201.88. I am requesting approval of this change order and for the chairman to sign that. This will allow us to close out that grant.
Okay, all right, thank you, ma'am. All right, entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, motion by Commissioner McDaniel,
Second.
second by Commissioner Rogers. Any further board discussion on this? Anyone in the public on this? All right, any opposition to that motion? Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Cox?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
A brief update on the transfer station. I don't know if y'all been out there and seen, we've hauled some dirt out there. We have ordered a building, we have ordered the scales, and we have, I think we've sealed the deal on the scale shack, little Connex trailer. So those 3 purchases are gonna be made shortly. They're already in the works, the building is in production, we should get the plans back on it possibly by this Friday, not early next week, and then we can send the plans off for concrete, and figured out how the slab's gonna be in the foundation. The other project I wanna give you an update on, I don't know how the weather's gonna affect it today, but we're very close to being at the end of our road bond money, and they were supposed to pave Gulf Air today. I don't know if the rain's gonna foul that up, but that's one of our last projects that I'm aware of that we have left on that.
Okay. All right. All right. Any questions from Mr. Cox?
When he says they've hauled dirt, that's a colossal understatement. How many loads?
We've got 510 loads out there right now. But that being said, we're changing the way that, we took some of the bad design from the one before, and we noticed what didn't work and what we needed to do to make it work more friendly for the public. You're not gonna have an 84-foot, 8-degree ramp to back up into a building anymore. We're gonna build it up when you come off the scale. If you have a slow incline, you get up and it's got a big area where you can pull in and turn and back in easily to the building. So we've changed some things up to make it more user-friendly for the public, but it took some dirt to do that.
That's good. Appreciate that. All right, Mr. Horton?
Yes, sir. Just real quick, I would like permission to advertise to receive sealed bids for adult-side purchase this year.
Okay. All right, I entertain a
So
motion.
moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, motion by Commissioner McCrone,
Second.
second by Commissioner Rogers. Any further board discussion on this? All right, anyone in the public on this? Anyone in the public? Any opposition to that motion? Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
That's all you got?
That's it.
All
Go
right.
Phillies.
All right, yes, sir. Well, you need a raise. You need a raise. All right, Ms. Kelly, you want to tell us about, I saw the post about the hurricane event. Can you just tell us about that? I saw it. I thought that was a great idea.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Commissioners. We are putting together an anniversary event. Is that the one you're referring to, the Rise
yeah,
Up?
yeah.
So that will be held the afternoon of the 10th at George Core Park, and we're going to have some food vendors and a slideshow just to kind of show the progress of how far we've come and the people who've come in to help us. And we're inviting visitors to come, celebrate this occasion with us. We're going to have a couple of different music acts that are going to come in as well. And then at the end of the night, around sunset, we're going to relight the lights of the lighthouse just as a moment to spend together. So we're looking forward to that.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Yes, that's good.
And on another note, there also is going to be 2 other events that weekend. That Saturday, there's a marathon. It's a 50 miles for Florida. They're trying to get 500 runners, and I think they have to raise close to $1,000 to enter. And all of that is going to go back to the hurricane-impacted counties, so you can complete the race beforehand or virtually from anywhere. So we have that information on our website, and then there's also a Stronger Than the Storm event
Okay.
that's going to be held out at Veterans Memorial. So there's a lot going on that weekend.
Okay, all right. That's awesome. Thank you, ma'am. All right, Mr. Whitfield?
No, just saying.
Okay. Mr. Joe Paul?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, it doesn't sound like that mic's working, so I thought I'd get up here.
That's fine.
That way you know I'm awake and ready,
All right.
just saying. Commissioners, you know full well that the HHRP money that is coming from Florida Housing, the $5.915 million, I know you're aware of the letter we sent forward requesting the distribution of the funds be a little different than what the HHRP funding agreement said. We have not received an answer back yet. I know I've received a call almost every day from somebody up there wanting to talk about it. As of this morning at 7:45, there's not been a decision. If we get that funding agreement signed and into them by August, we have a chance of getting early money that's available in August. I'd like to request that the board give the chairman permission to sign the agreement after being reviewed by myself and my boss, Mr. Michael Hammond, that we can get this agreement in and get it funded so we can receive some early money. We've had an average of about 40 phone calls a day right now since the two different items came out in the newspaper, between that and the DAP money that y'all approved about 2 months ago. So we've got a lot of people ready to go. We just need to get the funding, and if we get a chance to get early money in August, I'd like to be able to get it.
Okay, all right, I agree. I entertain a motion.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
All right, motion by Commissioner Rogers.
Second.
Second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any further board discussion on this? All right, anyone in the public on this? Anyone in the public? All right, any opposition to that motion? Motion passes 4-0. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Jim McKnight.
Good morning. A lot of good things going on in Gulf County.
Yes, sir.
We have had two major events since your last meeting. One is really exciting is we've hired a new person to be the director at the Gulf Franklin Center. He's already the dean of workforce development at Gulf Coast State College. He'll be here on a regular basis. Al McCambry. I've been running into Al everywhere I went for the last 4 or 5 years. He's I guess you're out of the telecommunications business originally, but he's been to college 5 years. But folks, he knows everybody, and that's a good thing because he knows how to network what we're doing here. We've had coincidentally, one major new business to kind of announce. It's in a relationship with the college, and I'm gonna pass it to Al. Let him tell you about it.
Good morning, everyone. Commissioner Quinn, Chairman, and the rest of the Board of Commissioners, thank you very much for giving me this brief opportunity just to say hello and to introduce myself. My name is Al McCambry. I'm the Dean of Workforce and the Director of the Gulf Franklin campus, and I am excited about being here. I don't know quite everybody. This man, I hear, knows everybody. Every time I go somewhere, I see him, so I think he knows everybody. But at the end of the day, we have a partnership going on right now with the Unmanned Safety Institute. And they are actually going to be located at the Gulf Franklin campus. And they're working with the school systems throughout Gulf County, and they are actually going to be training high school students to be able to get an Unmanned Safety Institute certification by the time they finish with the program. With that particular partnership on top of what's going on with Skyboard Technologies and WeWall, it's just a tremendous opportunity for other economic development drivers here in Gulf County. The college prepares itself for being a trainer and a partner with anything related to economic development. Gulf Coast State College has everything from AA degrees to certifications, both credit and non-credit. We are here, we're in your backyard. Do not forget us. We love Gulf County. We love this region. Anything that we could do that supports Gulf County as it relates to economic development, training people. When those students come out of our doors, we want the employers here in this area and in this region to feel as though they are qualified to do the jobs that they have available for them. There's a lot of good opportunity and stuff coming to Gulf County. Gulf Coast State College and the Gulf Franklin campus wants to be part of that opportunity. So we're your partner. Don't forget about us because we're not going to forget about you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Great. Thank you. I might just add that, you've got a lot of stuff going on out there now. We've got, Skyborne has an operation in Wee Wee Hitchcock. They're now at the Costin Airport. Skyborne's done a merger recently with Unmanned Systems, Inc. That's a different business. They're in the drone business. They are currently locating at the airport as we speak. Now you've got Unmanned Safety Institute that's going to partner with the college to do another set of events. And then the school system has the application. We got 5 things going on, all in the same business line, and it just keeps, every time we do an announcement, keep the articles going, Tim, because every time they run an article, somebody else comes in. So I think we got a good cluster of stuff starting to happen all out there, and it's on both ends of the county, so we're excited about that.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate that, Mr. McKnight. All right. I saw an extension agent come in. Mr. Ray, you back there? You got anything you want to add today?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. Just got a few updates. 4-H camp was the week of July the 8th. We had a great camp week. We're on a roll. We had a great camp week last year, too, with good weather and just no real issues. We had 130 campers at Camp Tempucci this year. Now, that comprises Gulf County, Bay County, Wakulla, as well as Franklin. We had 28 campers from Gulf to go, so that's a really nice number. We're usually somewhere between 25 and 32, so kind of hit the average there. I want to thank Melanie Taylor, who's our 4-H agent, who through her tireless devotion to camp, it makes it just a great success. It wouldn't be a success without her. She did a really great job this year. I also want to thank the Career Source, as well as the Fort St. Joe Garden Club and the Gulf County Cattlemen's Association for their generous donations through our scholarship fund. Without donations like that, there are a lot of kids that couldn't go to camp because it's just so expensive these days, and we appreciate them greatly. Switching gears a little bit, we started our 2019 Scallop Sitter program. You may have read about this in the paper. We had this program last year. Unfortunately, Hurricane Michael just really destroyed all of our progress that we had made. This is an initiative between FWC, Gulf County Extension, and Bay County Extension to repopulate or help repopulate St. Joe Bay and St. Andrew Bay with scallops. And what we do is we train volunteers to manage cages, scallop cages in the bay. And these cages are predator exclusion cages. So it gives the scallops a chance to live through their whole life cycle and produce spawn, and therefore help repopulate the bay. These scallop sitters volunteer 400, I think it's estimated 400 plus hours this fall on this project. They'll take water quality samples, monitor cages, clean cages for us. And it's just a great project. We have 42 volunteers for Gulf County, which is huge. 40 something plus cages, and it's about the same for Bay County as well. So in the end, you're talking about 5,000 plus scallops being monitored in both St. Joe and St. Andrew Bay. So it's a huge, huge benefit there. The third and the final item on my list too is we just graduated a class of Master Gardeners yesterday. We're really proud. April Andrews, Tana Coleman, Sandy Lord, Tammy Johnson, and Donna and Jean McCrone are our latest class of Master Gardeners. So that doubles our Master Gardener class or program. So we look to have more involvement in the community with projects and going forward, just bolster the Master Gardener program here.
All right, any questions for Ray?
Ray, does that mean I put Gene to work?
You can't, yes, sir. Absolutely. Absolutely.
We want to see that.
Ray, what about your the doctor? Has he started?
Yes, Dr. White, he has purchased a building just north of, well, I guess it's still in Weewah, but just north there on 71. They're renovating the building at this point. And I think it's going to be maybe a few more months before he's here officially. The Coggins Clinic went very well. We had, I think, 50 plus participants in that, which was huge. There was a few from Calhoun County that came down, but yeah, most of it was Gulf County residents that brought their horses. I would say within the next few months he should probably be set up. It's just going to take him a little while to renovate the building, but going forward, very positive.
Okay, all right, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Ms. Roberts?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Rhonda? Huh? All right, Sheriff? No? Who I'm missing? All right, come on up, Mr. Ben.
Morning, Commissioners. I'm here to give you a brief report on our progress with the emergency radio system. There are a lot of wheels turning in this. We have secured our space on the tower at the north end. Our agreement is coming. The application was approved, and the wind load study has been completed there. I'm working on trying to get some buildings at each of the tower sites. Actually was on the phone this morning with the guy in Tallahassee, and he wants me to come this afternoon to look. So I'm going to make a run over there to see what they have. There's 20 buildings on the ground, and we're going to see how much they are and if it's anything we're even going to be interested in. Something I have failed to tell you is that because we are changing locations with our equipment, all of that has to be approved by the FCC. Those applications were sent about a month ago, and until we hear back from them, we cannot order the equipment because our frequencies may change and our space on the tower might have to change depending on what they tell us. So we do have people on standby, so as soon as we know, that equipment can be ordered and put into place, and we'd like to have everything ready to go so that can happen real quickly. My goal is to be totally complete before the end of September. I don't know how to make it move any faster right now, and it's all going to be contingent on the FCC.
And Chairman, I have approved him to move forward on all of these things, but it's a pretty good price tag. We're going to be pushing $100,000 when we're through, but if you just tell them what the repeaters and the coax installation is going to cost, and then
The repeaters and coax stuff to accommodate both ends are going to run about $65,000, between $65,000 and $70,000, and that includes the installation, somebody climbing the tower and pulling the coax.
Now, that's for both.
That's for both.
we're going to reuse the generator on the south end. We're still up in the air if we can reuse the generator that we had on the north end, but to have those buildings self-sustained, and they're 10 by 12?
10 by 12 is what we're looking at. That will accommodate 4 radio racks.
We need 2 buildings. Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
we need 2 buildings.
Yes, sir, we're going to have a location on each. I've checked with Verizon and with Consolidated. They don't allow non-company personnel into their structure, so we cannot use their facilities. We'll have to have our own.
All right.
Any questions?
Any questions?
One, Mr.
Yes, sir. Go
Chairman,
ahead.
please. Well, we're in our starting our 3rd week of hurricane season, and September is going to be 11 months from the time we've lost. And stay on top of this. If you don't hear anything, give them a call.
I've been doing that too.
All right, you got to stay on them, because I'm telling you what, when you're dealing with the government, they'll just lay it over to one side, and time means nothing to them, but it does to us.
Yeah,
We're lacking in communications here with our 911. I don't know about the sheriff. I know with EMS and fire, we're having problems. But please, Ben, stay on top of this thing before we can get back, because we may have we got October coming up, and that seems like a bad month for us. Hopefully, we can get a reprieve for a lot of years.
I
Don't have to
hope
go
so, too.
through what we went through again.
Yes, sir.
Too much. All right. That's all,
actually
Mr.
put
Chairman. Thank you, sir.
I actually put a call into the FCC yesterday afternoon, and the person we needed to talk to was not there, was supposed to call back, and has not done so yet, but I'll call again.
Well, if your luck's like mine, I never talk to the same person twice.
No, sir.
I call Tallahassee, and if I don't get the right answer, I just call back in 10 minutes, and I'll get somebody else. I keep calling, and finally I get somebody to give me what I'm going to hear. That's the way they operate. That's right.
All right.
That's all.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Missing anybody else in the staff? All right, we'll go straight to board business.
I'll take it, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead,
Thank
yes,
you
sir.
this morning, a good meeting. I just have one item. I think maybe it was last week, or may have been a couple of weeks ago. I was over making around in the courthouse, and as you know, we have security at the front entrance. And I always make it a point to stop and, well, any of them, do you have any problems, do you need anything? And it was brought to my attention that we need to look into cameras being put at the front entrance, at the steps coming up, for two reasons. Number one, we can see who's coming and going, and we've had some potential people that supposedly has fallen, you know, and we'll just have it. I feel like it would be beneficial to us. We don't have any there. It's my understanding we have some on the end, but as far as where the people come into the courthouse, we don't have any cameras. Now, where let me turn over here to the administrator now, whether the chief jurist of the 14th Circuit would help us in any way with that, we can look into it. If we can spend their money, let's spend their money. But Sheriff, you play a big role in this, and I don't know your feeling. You may want to comment on it, but your officer's the one that mentioned to me. They said it'd be a great help to monitor who comes and goes, you know, have it in case we ever need it. But no vote on it, but just let's get these people to work on it.
I think that's a great idea,
Cameras,
Ms. McDaniel. And have we got a system we can tie into, Sheriff? Okay, great.
Good. All right. Yep. All right. Mr. Chairman, thank you so much.
All right,
That's all I have this
All
morning.
right. Oh, well, just want to add something to that. I just want to ask a question. Is it a camera system toward that back entrance also? That you can see? Okay.
Yeah.
We have cameras there, it's just not at that specific spot. We have it on the end, we just need to add some cameras, I think.
Yeah, on the end of the building. We don't have any right there as you approach the steps or come up the ramp.
Yeah, when you mash the button in the back door, they can see who's coming.
Okay.
When that was the handicap access.
Okay. All right, that's it. Mr. Rogers?
I really don't have anything right now, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Crone?
I've got a couple things, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead. Yes, sir.
Just want to talk a little bit about code enforcement. We asked these guys to go out and do a tough job, and we're running into some problems, especially over in Oak Grove area, since we went to the one RV per parcel, we're running into some issues. You know, we'll have people pull 2 RVs up on a lot, and, you know, we'll have it removed, and a week later, they've pulled it back in there. We've got to put some teeth in this to deter some of this, and I just wanted to, you know, see what the other board members thought about this, and, you know, we got to put some fines or something in there, because the people keep doing the same thing over and over, and I know Lee and them and doing a good job, and man, it's a tough job, and just want to see y'all's thoughts on that, as far as, you know.
All right. Oh, what's the, do we got fines in place now?
We have fines and other remedies, but the problem is it's long-term. It takes forever to go through the code enforcement process. Right. And give them time. We may look at a ordinance change. What gets people's attention, you cut the power off. And that's something that, you know, we may could do by ordinance. That's you know, that's usually the control. Folks are continually trying to get 200, 400 amp services on small lots because they want to put multiple RVs on, and the building department's doing a good job turning it down. But if they've already got power there, that's where a lot of these problems are coming. And again, it'll take 3 months under the most ideal system to get code enforcement to go through the process, get our judicial, what do we call him, our magistrate to give an order, and then he has 15 days after that to comply, to either remove the stuff or whatnot. So, and then we have to lien the property. So, again, we can beef that up, including putting them in jail for 60 days. if that's what the board wants to do.
Yeah, we've got to do something, because these guys they go out, they pull the RV, pull one off, and a week later, they've got it right back. And it's just over and over and over, and just trying to, sidestep the law continually, so.
Are you renters?
Yes, they're renting. They're not supposed to be renting. They're renting the spots. And I think if we didn't say anything, they'd drag 6 up there, if they could. And it just makes it hard on our guys. It's never ending. So anyway.
And it's not just Oak Grove. even
No,
though
it's all
a
over.
bigger issue there, but
yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, legally, how you go about, you say shut the power off. I mean, how long is that process? We can do an ordinance.
We can amend the ordinance again. We had an RV ordinance. You guys rescinded it last summer, okay? So there's nothing on the books other than your LDRs and your comp plan right now. 1 RV per parcel, you get the power pole. A lot through the building department can be regulated through Brad's office, which is you apply for it. If it's not in compliance with the building department, then we can write the ordinance so that we can go out there and turn that off and expedite the process as quickly as possible. Under the statute, you can go up to $500. As Mr. Hammond said, you can go up to 60 days in county jail. So we can put as much teeth into that enforcement as necessary. I know Mr. Aiken, Mr. C are out there obviously notifying these people of what their requirements are. If they're in violation of it, to give them the notice and expedite the process on which they're going to comply with the county law. If they don't, we can put an ordinance there to impose those penalties on them.
And I would recommend, God forbid, let's bring up RV ordinance again. We're handling this under, one, the building ordinance, the general building official ordinance, and code enforcement ordinance. So one of those things, we've got ordinance for trash, we got ordinance for signs, we got ordinance for all these things. So I would say let's amend one of our existing ordinances, probably the building ordinance, and put a little more teeth in it. Again, a lot of folks are good, and you tell them they're doing wrong, and they'll change. Some people are just sorry and going to do whatever they want to and thumb their nose, and until you cut the power off, or God forbid, because I don't need anybody else in jail this week, put them in jail, they're going to continue to do the wrong thing. But that is a much better remedy than the civil remedy for the ones that just thumb their nose, because some folks are never going to clean their stuff up and never going to do right.
If we could, Mr. Chairman, or go ahead, Jimmy.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Ross.
Speaking on that, there's one out there in Highland View that we've already went through the full process. They did have a dumpster out there cleaning up some of the stuff, but unfortunately, at the end of the day, it's probably going to be back like it was. I mean, we've been ongoing with this one for, Mr. Collingworth, how long? Months, yes.
So if it's the board's desire, we will work up an
Bring us
ordinance
something back.
change and bring it back to the next meeting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Please.
All right, you want to say, go ahead, Mr. McDaniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me shed a little light on this, and I will forward this to the building or code enforcement. I received an email here maybe a week ago where a person had taken an RV, blocked it up. In other words, you can't back up and hook to it and pull off. It's blocked up with no visible sewer or no visible power going to it. Where do we stand on that?
Mr. McDaniel, let me.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
All right, sir.
We've been on
You
that
go ahead.
for months, and Mr. Collinsworth can add a lot to this. They've been out there, him and Trevor's been out there numerous times, and if you want to tell us where we're at on that, Lee. But
I just got it the other day.
Yeah, we've been dealing with that for a while. So.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner. Yes, we've been out there a dozen or so times. There's nothing that says the RV cannot be blocked up. The way the FEMA has it addressed is if you leave the RV on its wheels, then it has to be tagged, ready to go with quick disconnects from water and sewer or septic, either or. If you block it up, then it's treated like a mobile home, and Brad can add if need be. As long as he blocks it up. I went back out there yesterday. It is tied to a septic tank.
Okay.
They blocked it up to get the gravity flow to the septic tank. So as long as they tie it down, I'd seen no violations with the tires and everything stacked nice and neat, everything's under the pole barn. So as long as they get their water hooked up and their power, they're already connected to the septic tank, then there is no issue other than these need to be tied down.
So they went through the health department for the septic?
Yes, the septic's already been there.
Okay.
It's already been on the lot.
All right.
They either need, if they want to.
They got to get a permit to hook up power from the building department?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And they'll be right back in line.
So how long is they planning on being? I mean, that's their permanent resident?
We haven't been able to get in touch with the owner. The owner of the lot is in Appalach. It's a P.O. box. We haven't been able to locate the owner yet. I haven't seen anybody there. It's always been the same. Every time I go over there, everything's parked in the same place, hasn't moved. So I'm not sure if anybody's coming on the weekend or whatever. There was a complaint that the generator runs all night. I live 2 blocks over. I've been over there after dark, have not seen or heard the generator. So every time we get the email, we go over there, and we've been spending a lot of time that I really don't have to go over there, and just I have not seen anything that's out of whack. So other than he needs to tie it down or drop it back down and get a pump tank to get it up to the sewer, to the septic tank, either one of those can be easily fixed as long as we can find out who we can get hold of.
Okay.
One more thing, Mr. Chairman. Our favorite subject, garbage. We've been getting a lot of reports, especially in the tourist corridor, that we have several people that don't have garbage service, and they're using everybody else's cans. And most of the complaints are coming from, a lot at the Cape in my district, but just wondered at some point in time, would it pay us to go to mandatory pickup in the tourist corridor, to alleviate some of these problems? Just want to get y'all's thoughts on that. But
I was out there the other day, and I rode by one place, and they had 3 BCC cans. And I rode by one place, and they had 1 BCC can. I rode by another, and they had 2. So I was like, well, heck. And there was garbage outside the can. And I was like, well, the people with 3 did the right thing. And then you got this one with 1 can and trash all outside. So, I mean, and I called Mike. I was like, what days are the pickup? And then he told me it was Saturday, Monday. And I said, well, I'm assuming that some of the cans, because I seen some cans were dumped, some cans were not dumped, but I'm assuming that the cans that were dumped were twice a week, and the ones that weren't dumped, dumped, they're going to pick those up today, on Monday.
Monday's a normal day, and then if you're paying for twice a week, it's Monday and Saturday, I think. Is that right, Warren?
I'm sorry.
Monday and Saturday on the twice, if you're paying for twice a week.
That's correct.
But go ahead and talk to us about we had a meeting the other day with some of the rental companies and all, the TDC did on the.
Yeah, what we're finding is most of the complaints are within the tourist corridor, and most of them are on Cape San Blas. That being said, you have some owners that absolutely don't purchase enough cans, and it's like $8 a month, and I think BCC's back here, it's like $8 a month for another can, so it's not like somebody can't afford a second can if it's constantly over. The way that I think BCC structured their cost were that if it's for a 96-gallon can, that's what they pick up, and that's what they have to haul off, and that's what they have to dispose of. And for folks to continually have the same issue of piling enough for 2 cans out there, they just need to get the second can. And then some just don't have a can at all, and they're using others. And I don't know if that's permanent residents. There's no way to monitor this. I don't know if it's permanent residents. I don't know if it's an FRBO or a rental by owner, or I think for the most part, what the property managers try to do is to watch this. And if they have a property that's continually a problem, they ask their owners to purchase another can, and they just bill it out. But there is an issue. There's an issue with not everybody having a can, and I hear you. It's a tough decision to make, but at some point, you may want to consider it.
How would mandatory out there in the tourist corridor help us out?
I didn't believe I'd ever say that I'd be in support of this, but I do think that we need to do mandatory in the tourist corridor, because you have irresponsible people. And for the most part, now, this is not the contracted real estate agents that are running these things, the managed properties. This is the VRBOs, and it's individual people that have a 5-bedroom house that family and friends come down, and they either have no can or they have 1 can, and they've got garbage for 20 people. And that's, and it's irresponsible. Now, mandatory alone will not solve this problem. You've got a crisis in the city of Port St. Joe, and they've got mandatory garbage, and they'll cut their water off if they don't pay their garbage bill. It is personal responsibility from people that are just not being responsible and paying that extra $8 or $16. But if you've got a 5-bedroom house that's renting for $8,000 a week and you've got 1 can, that's not responsible.
That's right.
And most of these folks are shortcutting the system by doing these VRBOs. Some people don't come down for 6 months at a time, but when you come down, you got 20 folks, you got to have more garbage and then some of those people are putting their garbage in other cans, or they're piling on the side of the road. So again, this would fall back to the enforcement side. Since we can't cut their water off, it would fall back to fines from code enforcement. And again, you may want to, again, limit it. You're going to have locals that are going to be ticked off when we require twice-a-week pickup in this corridor and it catches them. But you may want to limit it to rental properties or bed tax paying properties or something to that nature. But again, anybody that's renting property on the tourist corridor, whether it's the Cape, St. Joe Beach, or Windmark, needs twice-a-week pickup, and they need multiple cans. It just fact of life.
I think if it's a rental property, it needs twice-a-week pickup. Now, the permanent residents could stay at once a week, but those rentals need twice a week.
But let me tell you the other issue, and we've talked about this, and we've got folks that ought to know better that's not being smart too. Just because you're at Cape San Blas does not mean you can get twice-a-week pickup.
That's right.
And we have had numerous complaints that the garbage truck missed me on Saturday. And when we look them up, they don't have twice-a-week pickup. They have once-a-week pickup. And so whatever we do, we need to, educate the public and educate a lot of these folks are out-of-towners. They don't, so we're going to have to send them a letter or do something because they're not reading the paper and they're not watching the TV. But our problem is VRBOs and private individuals renting their property. And again, they're absentee owners. They're not paying attention. They may not even know they have a problem. But I know just an average family, some days they're going to fill that can up just themselves. When you've got vacationers that are cooking out and on vacation, they generate a lot more garbage. And these big houses need a lot of garbage.
All right, Mr. Rogers, go ahead.
Yeah, just go to the Piggly Wiggly and watch them roll the buggies out. They got to do something with all that.
No doubt, yeah.
But on that, we need to get staff to look and see. Probably not going to be a perfect solution, but we definitely need to address that, because I see it all the time too. St. Joe Beach has got some of the same issues. So
Absolutely. If staff could bring us something back.
Do you want us to limit it to rental property only, or do you want us to limit it to anything in the tourist corridor?
I think if it's rental properties, that they need the twice-a-week pickup. But then we get into the problem, there's some people at the Cape that, like you said, they don't even have service. They use everybody else's cans. And,
So I did want to mention, we already have a definition for tourist corridor that we can actually go by and just give you some options. Staff, we can certainly work on that. I know we've got Jason with BCC in I don't know if you want to hear from the contractor or not, but Jason's certainly here and can speak to that.
Make sure you state your name and represent Jason.
Jason Tennell, BCC. Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. So in addition, although, somebody asked if this was going to solve the problem, it's not 100% going to solve the problem, but it's going to help tremendously. But in addition to this, one of the things we talked about when we had a meeting in here last is RFID chips on the cans. Had we known then some of the issues that were happening, we could have had them installed from the factory. But I've since gotten prices, and we're going through the process now to retrofit the cans in the tourist corridor with RFID. So that'll help us identify what house that can goes to, and if a house has a can that's not supposed to have one, because it'll gather all that data. So I think between those two, the mandatory trash pickup and the RFID retrofit, that can help us significantly, if not completely solve the problem.
Good, good. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Mayor, thank you, Jason, for coming over. Let me just give the board and you a report. Up in the area that I represent, well, the north end of the county, when the transition, naturally I got called because, and the sheriff is well aware of this, so many houses up there that don't have street signs in the county. We working on that to get them all back, house numbers. But anyway, I want to tell you this, it's a pleasure to see a decent garbage truck go down our streets, and my pickup, I know Friday morning between 8 and 10, he's going to be there. Before, I didn't know if it was coming Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or not coming at all, but I want to tell you that. And the calls to me, they've really tapered down to, you might say, nothing. Now, I still get calls, there's Waste Pro cans sitting around, and our Public Works Director, he's got a solution for that. And hopefully we're doing good. But everything up in our end of the county is, of course, it's different geographics than it is down here. That's primarily permanent residents there where you've got these vacations here. But I think everything's doing good. And as I told you, if you have any issues, you call me. We'll get to the bottom of it. Okay? But anyway, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Just to go with what Commissioner McDaniel, I think we went and picked up some more Waste Pro cans. Was it yesterday, Mark? Did we?
Can I talk for a second?
Absolutely.
So I sent Chris back out again yesterday. We picked up over 50. But we have one issue. There was one can sitting outside the road, had garbage in it. Guy stopped to get the garbage can. Lady come outside with a shotgun and told him, don't get my can.
Ooh.
So they backed off and didn't get the can. So I ended up calling the guy at Waste Pro and talking ugly to him a little bit. And he ended up telling me if we can get them the addresses of the people who have Waste Pro cans, that they would actually send someone as well. So I failed to mention that earlier, but if you get people that call you or you see people or people talk to you or whatever, if you'll call my office, talk to Karen, let her know an address, she's got a contact at Waste Pro. We were actually on site picking up some cans yesterday, and Waste Pro showed up to pick cans up too. Okay. So they are making, we tested it. We gave them some addresses, and they actually showed up at one of the same addresses we were at while we were getting them. So we got about 50 yesterday, but they're doing it too. But we just need addresses, because I guess some people don't want to give them up.
Mr. Chairman, yes, but you're only going to pick up BCC cans.
That's right.
Well, that's all you should pick up.
Yeah.
You're not picking up any more Waste Pro cans, so that people know that,
Let me ask one other thing here while we're on this garbage, because this thing, wow. Had a customer call, said they dumped a can, but I had a bag sitting beside it and they didn't get it. So I said, well, do this. I said, raise the lid back, take your other bag and set it up on top. So when they reach and get it, they got it. And he called me back, he said, yeah, they got it. So now there's gonna be time, Christmas, Thanksgiving, if people have maybe one can a little extra, and you're gonna have to just, use some consideration on that. But I have seen them where they pile things around there that had nothing to do with household garbage. Nothing whatsoever. But you're gonna pick up your cans, BCC cans.
That's right.
Well, that's all you should.
Yeah. All right, go ahead, Mr. Novak.
To Mark's comments a minute ago, I just think it's important. We're sitting here on July 23rd, and I know everyone's discussing. Jason said he's not picking up those cans. There's over 400 cans in the county with putrescent debris that have been picked up in the last month and a half. that was the former contractor's responsibility. So I know there's a discussion going on amongst the commission and staff, but please also understand that the county has had to go out and pick those things up for the last month and a half, which is still a remaining outstanding issue. And I appreciate them going out and picking up cans here and there, but there's over 400 cans that have already been picked up to date.
That Waste Pro did not pick up?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And that's just residential. There's still some commercial cans out there.
All right, what about you, again, Warden, do you, does BC, do you service the GulfCI?
The prison.
The prison? He does not, okay.
We should, though. It's in the county.
Well, maybe I'll open up something I should. Anyway, I will see if he needed more cans or whatever, or dumpsters, okay.
Getting back to direction for us to bring you something, again, if we had a mechanism for collecting properly, mandatory would be fine. We don't. And the fallacy is, and a lot of smart people can't grasp this fallacy. This is a fallacy. We have somewhere north of 90% participation in the county for garbage. It is not a mandatory garbage will not solve this problem. 99% of this problem is people with one can with too much garbage. That's too many people and not twice a week pickup and not multiple cans. So mandatory garbage, we could have it and put it on the tax bill. It'd be a disaster in my opinion, but we could have it and it still you'd have the same problem at the Cape that you got today. You're going to pick up a few, but again, the problem here in the tourist corridor is the amount of cans and the multiple time frequency of pickup. And again, we've changed that date. The changeover date, the number one garbage date is Saturday morning because all those places are getting cleaned on Saturday morning before the changeover about noon or 1 o'clock. So they changed to pick up at noon or in the afternoon on Saturday. They're full again on Monday. They need it, and some of them need 3 times a week pickup.
Well, Michael, let me say this: if y'all could come back with recommendation, I mean, if we have to go to, on rentals, go to twice a week pickup mandatory, and make them go to multiple cans, So.
And again, I don't want to be in the garbage Nazi business, telling how many people got to have a can, but we may have to come up with something per bedroom. If you've got a 5-bedroom house, then you need so many cans. If you've got a 1-bedroom, you probably get by with 1 can twice a week. But the problem is these big houses, and they're charging a lot of money, and they're packing them in there, and they're generating the garbage, and then they're just piling it up. And not only they're putting it in other people's cans, they put it inside the can, and then it's blowing all over, and animals are getting into it and whatnot. So
Or they're stealing cans.
Or they're stealing cans. We'll come up with something to present to you at the next meeting or the next special meeting to bring to you, but something in the tourist corridor, multiple pickups and multiple cans. Is that direction?
Absolutely, yeah.
That sounds good to me.
Thank you, Jason.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, sir.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, all right. I mean, let me just add this, I always pride myself on, if I leave one position, I want to leave it in good standards, because I might need to come back one day, and I can just honestly say, Waste Pro hadn't done that, I've been, they used to pick up, and I'm in the city now, I'm talking about my trash, they used to pick up on Mondays. Heck, I checked my trash yesterday, I checked my trash this morning, they hadn't even got it, so, and then not only that, I think I hope they're not doing this on purpose. Well, man, I have seen more leakage on the streets lately than, and what went to my mind was, I guarantee you they're sending leaky trucks throughout the community on purpose. I mean, that's just how I feel, because if I was running a business, I wouldn't try to sabotage, the community just because the community chose to go in a different direction. But I'm honestly thinking that they're sending those leaky trucks on purpose in the community because they don't have the contract. That's my opinion. That's just my honest opinion about it. But man, the service ever since they lost the contract has been terrible. And like I say, I'm glad. I know BCC. I can see when I'm out in the county part, I can see BCC trucks out. And those guys out there busting their hump. So I'm glad that we got a new provider that's that's gonna step up the service. So Jason, appreciate you guys, and I know you're gonna do the community, a great job, so I just want to echo on that. Just my personal feelings about what I've been seeing lately in the community. But I do not have anything also. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, before you move on to the next agenda items, I know the board's done. One thing we left out earlier, the hurricane repairs to your various facilities throughout the county. You approved through a pre-qualified RFQ of several contractors that were vetted by the Planning and Building Department administration. You approved those contractors. They have since gone through the first 2 phases of submitting bids for the repair on various facilities. One of them that came in was the St. Joe Beach Fire Department, which was a Culpeper, had submitted a bid. They have since withdrawn that bid. That was the only one. And we'd like permission for the building department to go ahead to the next lowest bidder and negotiate with them to have that facility repaired. And Mr. Hammond, I'm sorry. Cotton was the one that withdrew. Culpeper is the next lowest, but we just needed to ratify your approval to go to the next lowest bidder. All the others, we met with them yesterday. They're signing their contracts, and hopefully we'll start with the work next week on, I think, 14 or 15 various projects for the county.
Okay. All right.
Brad, you need something? Okay.
And y'all have given me the authority to approve these based on the low bid. I had the attorney review it since it was out of the ordinary. It was an honest screw-up, sounds like, and that was what the building official's recommendation was. And the attorney reviewed it, so I have no problem with that. Just, we're going to take the next qualified bidder, if that's good with the board.
That's correct.
So you need a motion?
Yes, sir.
So moved.
All right, motion by Commissioner McCrone, second by Commissioner Rogers. Any further board discussion on this? Anyone in the public on this? Anyone in the public? Any opposition to that motion? All right, motion passes 4-0. While we talking about those contractors, let me ask this question. When does where are they starting at? When will they be to the library? I mean, just, because I was at the library yesterday and I got that question. The question I asked, well, when are they planning on starting on the library?
I can take a stab, and then Lee, if you want to follow up. We met with them yesterday, Lee and myself. They've all received their contracts, as well as the addendums for each one of the projects. They are due back tomorrow, and we've asked them all to sign them by Thursday. Once they've received their notice of awards for the first 2 phases, they sign their contracts, and the county will send correspondence, which is a notice to proceed. So ideally, they said some of them are ready to go, including Bill, I think from Advon, who got the library. So I think they said they're all ready to start next week. So we've pushed them, and I think that they're ready to go and staged. But Lee, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, the first round was the library, the health department, WeWall, the EMS, admin building, TDC, and the EOC. Since we had all the fire departments was second round. So the library is first on the list with the health department. Excuse me. Each one of them has, and the first round they split up 2, and 2, so everybody got a couple of them. So those within should be the health department, WeWall. Once they get started next week, I would say probably about 3 weeks or so, that one should be completed. Library is going to be a little more in depth because there's a little more damage on it, but those projects there are top on the list.
Okay, all right.
All right, now, I have one,
Go
Mr.
ahead, yes,
Chairman. The, where, Mr. Beaudry, the extension,
It was in the first
the
round.
clerk maintains an office there and the tax collector.
Yes, sir.
And we had to go up there and take Vias Queen and put over there equipment. It was raining through the roof so bad. And
Yep.
it always happens on the weekends and the nights. But don't forget that building. I think probably, Mr. Whitfield, what about with your ambulance building?
We got a couple of little leaks.
But you could sacrifice.
You in the first round?
They're in the first round.
Voters ahead.
All the big projects have been bid now. All the fire departments, all the library,
Okay.
both health departments, both EMS, admin, EOC, and this one here. Then we're going to smaller projects. So all the big projects have been let. So they're going to could start as early as Thursday.
Good.
All right. All right, thank you, sir.
Did we finish that motion?
Yeah, we carried that motion. All right, Ms. Roberts. We did. You think so? I did? We did? Okay. All right. Yes, sir. All right, moving on down to item 7, quasi judicial.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
We got 3 items today. The first one's a variance request for Terrence and Susan Michael Ross, located at 7599 US Highway 98, parcel ID number 03817-060R, in Section 5, Township 7 South, Range 11 West, Unit A of a triplex. They requested a 10-foot variance into the 20-foot roadside setback off of 98 and a 9.25 feet southeastern encroachment into the side setback. This variance was approved by recommended approved by the PDRB by a 3-0 vote. The 10-foot setback has been one that we have been given because the DEP pushes them so much forward on 98. And on the side setback, which was one of the issues, the pilings were still there. The side setback adjoins common area so that it does not affect anybody. Nobody can build on that other side. It was talked about in the PDRB meeting, and they voted a 3-0 to approve.
All right, thank you, sir. Is anyone here who wishes to speak on this item? If you are here, please step forward. All right, does anyone in here have any objections to waiving the quasi judicial hearing or procedures? Anyone? All right, if there being no objections, I need a motion that we waive.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we waive.
All right, got a motion by Commissioner McDaniel,
Second.
second by Commissioner Rogers. Any further board discussion on that? Anyone in the public on waiving this quasi judicial hearing? Any opposition to the motion? All right, motion passes 4-0. Go ahead, sir.
Lance Watson from Southeastern Consulting Engineers, representing Terrence and Susan Ross. I've got a couple things that weren't, a couple pictures that weren't in a packet. Additional pictures.
Thanks, sir. Make sure you give Ms. Roberts one, please, and we'll share one if we have to.
So just a general background on this unit. You'll see on the front page that that's the front page is before the before it was demoed, the south unit, and the following pictures are after it's been demoed and the repairs that started on the other 2 units. So the south unit is the only one that was substantially damaged, and they were able to save the pilings. The first portion of this request, the 10-foot front setback, that's typically granted from, DEP pushing the project landward. In this case, that is a portion of that, but also what we have done in order to try to mitigate to some extent, is taken, and you can see on the first and second page, the north unit or northwest unit has a 4-foot cantilever, and that was a mirror image of the south unit. So what we've done now in order to meet that 10 feet, and we've reduced the original footprint of the cantilever you see on the plans that's in the packet on C4. We've reduced that 4-foot cantilever to a 1-foot cantilever in order to reduce the original footprint to a proposed 1 foot to meet that 10-foot setback. And also the stairs that you see on the pictures originally were about 2.5 feet from the front property line, the right-of-way line, and we have proposed to not replace those stairs in that setback, get under the footprint of the house with the stairs, and get rid of that as well. So that's on the front 10-foot request. On the side originally, and you can see on the front page of this one, the row of pilings at its shortest dimension from the property line is 3 inches inside the property. And originally, the existing house cantilevered about 10 to 12 inches over that row of pilings and about 8 to 10 inches into the adjacent dedicated property. So what we propose to do is keep the pilings in the same line. They're all still existing, rebuild on those pilings, and not cantilever where it was. Bring that footprint back flush with the pilings and stay inside that property line and not have to drive pilings next to the existing structures that are already probably over 75% through the repair stages.
All right, thank you, sir. Any questions, board members? All right, Mr. Novak, got anything?
No, sir. I think Mr. Collinsworth gave you the PDRB's vote of 3-0 to recommend the variance. And in addition to that, in your packet from Mr. Collinsworth, you'll see that they deemed number 4 under section 34, that it would not confer a special benefit or privilege denied by these regulations. And then 35, 36, 37, 30, and 40 were found to support their findings of substantial and competent evidence. That's all I have, sir.
All right, do we need, yes, sir?
I don't have a problem with the variance, but I want you to put on the record, if at all possible, that the only reason that staff is not objecting to these variances is because it does not affect any neighboring property that would have the opportunity to build. When it's dedicated beach or an easement or something where it's not encroaching on the neighbor's ability to build in the future, we don't have an objection to it. But should we have those in the future, and we will, then we're going to have a different take to that. And there are ways around that, firewalls and whatnot, but since this does not affect the adjoining property's ability to build, we don't have an objection to it.
Okay, all right, thank you, sir. All right, board members, got any questions? All right, Mr. Novak, we need to do the formal reading and all that good stuff.
No, sir. If you have no objection, you entertain a motion to waive the reading, I'll just reference the form and ask you for 2 authorizing votes.
All right, I entertain a motion that we waive
So
the
moved to
formal reading.
waive.
All right, got a motion by Commissioner McDaniel,
Second.
second by Commissioner Rogers. Anyone in the public on waiving this formal reading? All right, any opposition? All right, motion passes 4-0. Go ahead, Mr. Novak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With the closing of the public hearing and waiving the quasi-judicial today, the applicants made the application for the variance. On the forms that are presented to you, your templates and standard forms, Section 2.0507 for variances, requirements, and procedures, Section 34, if the board would consider one of those 4 provisions for granting this variance, and your PDRB recommended number 4, as I read before, the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege denied by these regulations to other land, structures, or buildings in the same district. If there's a consideration of the board for that.
All right. Any questions, board members? All right. So how does the board feel? Don't want to approve, deny?
Are you good with that?
Yes, sir.
It was 3-0.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
3-0,
There's
subsection
a
4.
motion in order here.
Yes, sir.
It is, I move that we approve.
Okay,
Second.
thank you, sir. All right, motion to approve by Commissioner McDaniel, second by Commissioner McCrone. Any further board discussion on approving this? All right.
Yes, sir.
Number 4.
Your motion would be to approve based on the
Based
same
on-
criteria that the PDRB recommended?
Yes.
And that was number 4?
Number 4.
That's all right with you, Commissioner McDaniel?
I'm fine.
Okay,
Fine.
all right. Any further board discussion on this? All right, anyone in the public on this? All right, motion to approve passes 4-0. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I have to read the second part. So sections
Okay,
35, 36,
sorry.
37, and 40 are all substantial competent evidence that the hearing was properly noticed. And based on that and your findings under section 34, is it the will of the commission to approve the variance recommended by the PDRB, either to approve, deny, or additional tabling? So if there can be a second vote on the reading of the form, sir.
All right. I entertain a motion.
Motion
All right, motion by Commissioner McDaniel,
second.
second by Commissioner Rogers.
On the second.
Any further board discussion on this? All right, anyone in the public on this? All right, motion to approve passes 4-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr. Collinsworth?
Mr. Chairman, I want to reiterate what Mr. Hammond had just said on the side variances, because there's going to be a lot that's probably going to come forward. We had sat down on multiple occasions And as long as the side setback adjoined either county property or a common area where it did not affect the adjacent homeowners, then that was going to be allowable. There's going to be several that come up that will affect adjacent property owners. So just so you understand that we're not setting precedent on giving everybody a side setback variance. And there still may be some alternative stuff that they have to do with firewalls and no windows on that side because of being so close to the property line. So just want to make sure everybody understands the reason for that one.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right, the second one I have is a small-scale land use map amendment for Mr. Domino DeMunk. It's located at 187 Michael Street, parcel ID number 01545-046R, Section 10, Township 4 South, Range 10 West. It's a 1.4 acre parcel, changing it from residential to mixed commercial residential. There was a vote of the board 3-0 to approve.
All right, thank you, sir. Is anyone here who wishes to speak on this item? Please step forward. Please step forward. All right. All right.
Mr. Chairman, on this, you're going to have two of them. Both of these properties are a small automotive repair kind of thing. Have been doing it for years. They're just now trying to get their land use, and once the land use gets changed, if it's passed by the board, they still have some buffering issues and stormwater that they will have to comply with.
Okay.
But this place has been there for a long time, and they did have letters sent to the adjacent property owners with no objection.
Okay, all right. So if there's no one here to speak on it, from the owner, does the board have an issue with waiving the quasi judicial hearing?
So moved to waive.
All right, motion by Commissioner McDaniel to waive. Second by Commissioner Rogers. Any further board discussion on that? Anyone in the public against waiving the quasi judicial hearing? There being none, motion passes 4-0. All right, Mr. Collinsworth, you said that the PDRB voted 3-0?
3-0 to approve, yes, sir.
Okay. All right. All right, Mr. Novak, you want us to go ahead and waive the formal reading? Since
If
there's
you
no
would,
rain?
sir, thank you.
All right, I entertain a
So
motion.
moved.
We waive the formal
Second.
reading. Motion by Commissioner McCrone, second by Commissioner Rogers. Any further board discussion on waiving? Anyone in the public? All right, any opposition against it? All right, motion passes 4-0. Go ahead, Mr. Novak.
All right, Mr. Chairman, if you're conducting the public hearing under the requirements for the small-scale map amendment, you see the form we also prepared for these applications. You have the form in front of you.
Yes, sir.
What I'll do is I'll read them and to you, and then ask at the end, if you would, for your consideration. In addition to that, there's a proposed ordinance for the small-scale map amendment. And then if you can ask Mr. Hollinsworth if he has any additional comments. It's the commission shall review and consider the following requirements to affirm by motion and vote the quasi-judicial or through a public hearing, which you've accepted, a small-scale map amendment. The Gulf County Commission accepts the Planning Board Department Statement of Completeness for the small-scale map amendment. Gulf County Commission deems the record submitted as competent and substantial evidence. Gulf County Commission accepts the Planning Department Statement of Representation for proper notice of today's public hearing in accordance with our LDRs and small-scale map amendment provisions. This commission shall make a finding that the requirements regarding this small-scale map amendment have been met by the applicant for the reasons set forth in the application, justifying the granting of the amendment. The commission shall make a finding that the granting of this small-scale map amendment will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent and regulations of our LDR and not injurious to the neighborhood. Under no circumstances shall the commission grant a small-scale map amendment to allow a use not permissible under the terms of these regulations in the district involved. And following those substantial and competent evidence and findings by this commission with the recommendation of your PDRB, this commission shall then vote either to approve, deny, or table the application for the small-scale map amendment. If you do vote to approve, we'll move forward with the ordinance advertisement and adoption to grant this small-scale map amendment. Any questions from the commission?
Y'all got any questions for Mr. Novak? Yes, sir.
How many acres are they wanting to change this? Is it the 37 acres, or is it just the
It's the 1.48.
1.4? Okay.
All right, any more questions? All right, what do you recommend, Mr. Collinsworth?
The board recommended 3-0 to approve. The planning department recommends the same.
Okay, all right. All right, Board, what's your wishes of the board? You want to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve.
Second.
All right, got a motion by Commissioner McDaniel to approve, second by Commissioner McCrone. Any further board discussion on this? All right, anyone in the public on approving this variance? Any opposition against that motion? Motion to approve passes 4-0.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. In your packet, you'll see the proposed ordinance. With your vote to proceed, what we'll do is we'll properly advertise that and then ratify that ordinance for the small-scale map amendment.
Okay.
You've already met your statutory obligations for the public hearings, and we'll move forward with formally ratifying that small-scale map amendment.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Collinsworth, you still have the floor.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last is another small-scale map amendment. This one property is adjacent to the one you just approved. The applicant's Michael McCorby. It's 259 Michael Street, parcel ID number 01519-990, Section 10 Township 4 South, Range 10 West. It's a approximate 1.22 acre parcel, changing from residential to mixed commercial residential. It's the same kind of business.
Okay. All right. Is anyone here to speak on this item? If you're here, step forward. All right. If not, all right. Does the board have any objection to waiving the quasi-judicial hearing?
So move to waive.
All right, motion by Commissioner McDaniel to waive.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rogers. Any discussion on waiving this? All right, anyone in the public against us waiving this? All right, motion to waive passes 4-0.
Mr. Chairman, the
Yes, sir.
PDRB recommended 3-0 to approve this one as well.
All right.
Thank you.
PRB recommended 3-0 to approve. All right, Mr. Novak, wants to get a motion to waive the formal reading.
Yes, sir. So if you can entertain that motion, then I'll just paraphrase it and put it before you for consideration.
So move to waive. Second.
Motion by Commissioner McDaniel, second by Commissioner Rogers. Any further board discussion on that? All right, anyone against waiving in the public? All right, motion passes 4-0 to waive.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Mr. Collinsworth indicated, it was recommended 3-0 for the 1.2 acres for the designation change. The requirements and procedures form is in front of you. I just read you the criteria required under your LDRs for a small-scale map amendment. If there's a consideration or any questions of the board, we're happy to answer those. Otherwise, Mr. Chairman, if you can ask the commission for consideration of the PDRB's recommendation and staff's recommendations. After your action, we'll move forward with the attached ordinance that's attached to the your findings as well.
All right, board members got any questions? Anyone in the public got any questions? All right, PDRB voted 3-0.
3-0 to approve. Yes, sir. Planning Department recommends to approve as well.
Okay, all right. Well, board members, would you want to accept or deny?
So moved to accept.
All right, motion by
Second.
Commissioner McCrone to accept, second by Commissioner Rogers. Any further board discussion on this? Anyone in the public on this? All right, any opposition? Motion to accept passes 4-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll move forward again with the advertisement so you can ratify that formally as well through ordinance form. Thank you for your assistance.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, moving on down to item 8, public hearing, Gulf County ordinances.
Mr. Chairman,
Amending-
yeah, Mr. Chairman, that will be me as well.
Okay.
If we can, we'll deal with the first one. We can do, I see Mr. Butler's with us today, is with the land development regulations. Just to kind of give you a brief background, prior to today, we've had several public hearings dating back to June 13th. There was a opportunity for 2 public hearings, first before the Gulf County Planning Development and Review Board on June 17th at 9 a.m., consistent with the LDR's Article 2, 0504, C8, and a second public hearing with the Board of County Commissioners that you all conducted on June 25th at 9 a.m. Today, following another public advertisement on July 12th in the News Herald, is you are going to conduct a first reading and a third public hearing with regards to your land development regulations and the amendments proposed by county staff and along with Mr. Butler. Today's public hearing has been properly advertised, consistent with Florida statute. And Mr. Butler wants to come forward, answer any questions you all have. You've been provided the amendments to the LDRs. Today's ordinance is the first public hearing, and with your vote, we'll proceed to a final reading and final adoption at a subsequent meeting on August 27th. So I'll answer any questions you all have, and after Mr. Butler's done, I'll read it by title unless there's any objection.
All right, any questions for Mr. Novak before we go to Mr. Butler? All right, go ahead, Mr. Butler, you got the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is our third public hearing on this. We didn't have
Should be good.
we had no comments on that second public hearing. We had a couple of comments during the first public hearing. Since then, the only change other than topographical errors we changed is one paragraph we added, and we wanted to clear this up. It's to do with the variance that the county commission has historically granted along Highway 98 from Mexico Beach line, Bay County line to Windmark. And we put it in some clear plain English to make it a little easier on everyone, people trying to get a variance and the county staff. And it says, note, the area along the water side of the US 98 from Bay County line to Windmark may need setback variances to accommodate the need for FDEP to permit CCCL houses on the beach. County staff can approve up to a 20-foot variance into the 30-foot setback without further BOCC approval once it has been determined that FDEP requires a variance in order to approve the control line structure. What that would do is that would give the county staff the ability to go ahead and okay those variance requests in that stretch of 98 on the water side of 98 and nowhere else. And because historically the only way DEP will allow those houses to be built is push them off the beach. And the county has allowed 20-foot variances into the 30-foot setback forever. And this would eliminate them needing to go through the process and file a variance request with the planning department and go to the planning board and then come to you. They can go ahead and do it because it's going to be done anyway.
Okay.
But that was the recommendation. It's in there now. And if you leave it in there, it'd be part of the LDR. But other than that, there's no other big changes. And I think in a month we'll have the fourth or the second reading of the ordinance.
Okay.
And I'm not sure, Mr. Legal, is that going to be a public hearing?
Yes, sir. So what we'll do is we'll with their unanimous vote today, and there's no objection, we will advertise in the paper that public hearing and second reading for final adoption of the LDR amendments. It'll be 9 o'clock, August 27th, with a unanimous vote of the board.
All right. I need to open up to the public real quick. To see if
Yes, sir.
anyone-
So, Mr. Chairman, I'll read it. It's an ordinance per the requirements of Florida Statute 163 to adopt land development regulations, the requirements of Florida Statute 163 for the land development regulations to be consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan, providing for a repeal of the ordinance in conflict therewith, providing for severability, codification, and providing for an effective date. Florida Statute 125 specifically provides for proper publication, notice, and announcement of the Gulf County's intent and consideration of any and all land use modification ordinance adoption, and such notice has been properly published for general circulation today. The amendments that you've received from Mr. Butler are the exhibit to be attached to the ordinance, and that is by title, sir.
Okay, all right. This time we're going to open it up to the public. If anybody's here with any questions or concerns with the LDR, land development and regulations, please come forward. Anybody here? Any questions or concerns? If there being any, it's closed to the public. All right. Yes, sir.
Just want to say that how important this is. It helps your staff. Just that one change will cut about 2 months off somebody that wants to rebuild their house at St. Joe Beach or Beacon Hill on the coast. So it streamlines the process. It cuts out a lot of the BS, and it helps us enforce your policies efficiently, and it takes out some ambiguity. So I want to thank Mr. Butler for working on this. I have tasked Mr. Butler, which sounds a little odd after all these years from the other way around. He is going to do the same thing with our comp plan and make sure that these two mesh up. Again, we haven't had a real comp plan update in 30 years. So it is time, and again, we'll give him all gray hair before he gets through with this next one. But in the next few months, we'll be bringing the comp plan update up as well. But I want to thank Don for all his work. A lot of tedious reading and rereading and writing and rewriting on this. But again, this is something that the Building and Planning Department uses every day. And we want to make it efficient for both the public and your staff to enforce your rules.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Butler. Any questions for Mr. Butler? Okay. All right, we appreciate it. Thank you, sir. All right. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I've read it by title. You've had staff's recommendations and presentation. There's public hearing's been closed. So if you'd entertain a motion, we need a unanimous vote to go ahead and legally advertise for a 9 o'clock, August 27th, final reading and public hearing.
All right, I entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner McDaniel.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rogers. Any further board discussion on this? August 27th?
Yes, sir. Your next regular meeting.
Okay. All right, anyone in the public on this? Anyone in the public? All right, any opposition to the motion? Motion passes 4-0.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the second public hearing today for ordinance consideration and adoption is with regards to your flow control ordinance. As recently as last month, you had adopted an initial flow control ordinance. We've identified some language that we asked through staff recommendations for your consideration and amendment. Consistent with your other ordinance hearing today, we have advertised on July 12th a public notice and public reading for this ordinance adoption today on July 23rd at 9 a.m. If you recall, on April 28th and on May 16th, public notices were advertised with the original adoption of the ordinance, and you had your first reading on May 9th and second on May 28th for the adoption of the original flow control ordinance. In front of you today is the ordinance that was adopted, along with language that has been struck or added. And you'll read in Section 3 the purpose and proposed amendments in strike-through or underline format. Consistent with when you've amended ordinances in the past, what we've done to simplify the process is to simply strike through language that's being recommended to be struck and then underline anything to be added. With your permission, I'll read the ordinance by title and simply go to the language that's being removed or added.
Okay.
Okay. An ordinance of Gulf County, Florida, amending the established Gulf County solid waste disposal ordinance and establishing flow control within the boundaries of Gulf County as authorized by Florida Statute 403, and providing for legislative findings, providing amended penalties, providing for repeal or severability modification that may arise from your consideration today at this hearing, and providing for codification and an effective date. If I can direct you to page 3 under Section 4, first and foremost under A, it reads as follows: a flow of all solid waste as defined in Section 4D below, generated in or brought into Gulf County for transfer or disposal as provided by the county in an agreement or by rule or regulation contained herein. Then I direct you down to D, where it references 4D, the definition of solid waste. Solid waste for purposes of the ordinance shall incorporate the definition as stated in Section 403-703 Florida Statute and the Florida Administrative Code 62 as either may be amended from time to time. Any and all garbage, rubbish, industrial waste, horticultural waste, extraordinary waste, or any other semi-solid material resulting from domestic, commercial, industrial, agricultural, or in governmental operations, including refuse and bulky waste, but excluding hazardous waste, sludge, septic tank pumpage, asphalt, tar, oil, and grease, all excluding any hazardous materials set forth in 40 CFR Part 261. Solid waste for purposes of this ordinance shall also include any and all construction demolition debris as commonly referred to as C&D for those commonly discarded materials from premises or a project within Gulf County during construction, remodeling, repair, demolition, deconstruction, or renovation resulting from that construction, renovation, remodeling, repair, deconstruction, or demolition, operations on any pavement, house, commercial building, or any other structure, or from landscaping. And then finally, I would direct you all to pay Section 6 on page 4 with regards to penalties. The language has been struck and replaced with the following: any person or entity who violates any provision of this ordinance who fails to comply with therewith shall be subject to the following penalties as prescribed by the Gulf County Board of County Commissioners. Violation of this ordinance shall be enforced by the Gulf County Sheriff's Department, proper law enforcement, and or Gulf County Code Enforcement pursuant to Florida Statute 125, and shall result in a fine of $500 for each incident, or by imprisonment in the county jail not to exceed 60 days, or by such fine and imprisonment pursuant to Florida Statute 125, subsection 69. Those are for your consideration. And then, again, effective date on the last page under Section 9. This ordinance, if adopted by the board, shall take effect immediately, thereafter filed with the Office of Secretary of Florida Department of State. I offer these changes for your consideration. Any questions of staff, sir?
All right, thank you, sir. Any,
And
Go
that
ahead.
last portion, of course, I gave the sheriff a headache a couple of weeks ago, and Tim, and we went round and around in a positive way about it not spelling out what the penalties were. We, a lot of our ordinances, you want to talk about teeth for our garbage and code enforcement, this is what we'll start putting on the bottom. It actually spells it out. So what the change was, and I don't know that he read the change, it says penalty is provided by Gulf County and provided by law. It spells it out now, $500 per incident and up to 60 days in jail per incident. So second-degree misdemeanor. And this is similar to what we'll be adding to the code enforcement and garbage rules.
All right, any questions, Commissioners? All right, open up to the public. Anyone in the public with any questions or concerns with the solid waste disposal and flow control? Open it up. All right, if there being none, close to the public. All right, what's your recommendation, Mr. Novak?
It's my recommendation that you consider this for adoption today, and we'll obviously send it up to Tallahassee and get it on your books, and it'll be online in your Muni code this week.
All right, I entertain a motion that we approve it.
Move to adopt.
All right, motion by Commissioner McDaniel.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rogers. Any further board discussion on this? Anyone in the public on this? Anyone in the public? Any opposition to that motion? Motion to adopt passes 4-0. All right, moving.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Moving right on down to item number 9, Mr. Joe Taylor for Guiding Coast Arts and Culture. Morning.
Good morning.
Long morning.
Nice to be here with you.
Thank you.
Just a refresher, sir.
All right,
And for,
yeah, please, yes, please, yes, sir.
Chairman and Commissioners, my name is Joe Taylor. I'm the Executive Director for Franklin's Promise Coalition. And thank you for letting me come back before you. The last time I was here was September, and we all know what happened in October. So we're coming back to try to tidy up our loose ends so that we can begin to do some good work here in Gulf County. What we're asking for is to be designated as the local arts agency. And so basically what's happened between now and then is we worked diligently to put the Joe Center for the Arts back together. It took us from November to April. And since then we hosted 2 major events, one being our plein air event that we have annually. And we also, for the second year, did an event called Plein Air South, where we brought another 180 artists from the Southeast region here to stay with us for 4 days during the week to make sure that we filled those local hotel rooms. It's a bit of a challenge this year, but we pulled it off, and everyone was grateful that we followed through, and we felt like it was important to continue to do the things that we were supposed to do. Also in that time, the Florida Division of Cultural Affairs has been gracious enough to support us with 2 small grant opportunities so that we can continue to do our work. We're going to have about $50,000, one from an opportunity with the National Endowment for the Arts to use arts activities to support post-Hurricane Michael. Because artists as well were harmed. And of course, folks know that arts activities, music, and things for children are good at kind of distracting and helping heal some of the things that have taken place since that time. The other is to do the work that we described in the flyer to support artists, to support arts organizations, to support arts in our education, both schools in Weewa and here in Fort St. Joe, and to make sure that arts are used to help identify and support what we call barriers. So for instance, we use arts to help with substance abuse activities. We use them to have drumming circles for communications with at-risk youth. So those types of activities. And the last thing is for arts and economic development, just like we did with the Plein Air South and the Plein Air event this past week. So we're coming before you to ask for that designation. And if you choose to do that for us, we'll be glad to come back and report on the successes that we have at the end of the year.
Okay. All right.
Yes, sir. I've read the resolution from Mr. Taylor, and I appreciate him working with the county with everything that transpired after he was here the last time. But I'll certainly work with him and get that in front of the commission with the appropriate language for your signature.
Okay. All right. We need to entertain a motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So move.
All right. Motion by Commissioner McDaniel.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rogers. Any further board discussion on this? All right. Anyone in the public on this? All right. Any opposition to the motion? All right. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you so much. We look forward to sharing good news.
Thank you, sir. Good day. Appreciate it. All right, Mr. Hammond.
Just a couple quick things. In the morning, Commissioner Rogers, if you can attend, it'd be good. We have a meeting at 8 o'clock with the grant coordinator and the engineer on the White City boat ramp and park. FERDAP, they have cut us some money, and we're going to try to get that money back and possibly just tear out that wooden dock that's along the wall and put in a floating dock similar to what's at Gaskin is going to be our presentation. But if you could be there, that'd be wonderful, since we find out exactly what you want. And then if the chair or your designee could be part of that meeting that Mr. Yeager and I have tomorrow with FEMA. Do you know, what time is that one? 12 noon. Slightly important. He's a really nice guy, but we haven't got a penny. And it's time, you know, they owe us $1 million, and then we need to get our money rolling on these berms. So it would be good if we could have the chairman or your designee at that meeting. And then if we don't get a positive response from DEO this week, I'm a little puny, so I'm gonna need one of y'all to go with me to Tallahassee to arm wrestle them on our money for the transfer station, which is a little bit important. We've got Senator Mumford working on it, but we'll see where that goes. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
How that phone call went the other day? I thought
The phone call went very good.
No, I'm talking with Mumford's. Didn't they follow back up?
Well, my phone call with him was fine, and it was blunt that we could do whatever we wanted to. Now, his staff reached out after I went home yesterday afternoon to Casey, and it was a little more complicated. So it wasn't yes, and that's what we need to get to is yes. So the senator's on the right page. The bureaucrats in Tallahassee are not necessarily on the right page, so we got to get them on the right page.
Okay.
Or arm wrestle.
All right. That's all you got? All right, we got anyone? What you got, Mr. Joe Paul? What we got?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I have Mr. Charles E. Coffin, 5225 Cape Sandblast Road, wants to speak about an RV electrical permit.
All right, come on up, Mr. Carlton. Just state your name and who you represent, your address for the record, please.
Charles Edwin Coffin. I reside at 5526 Monterey Road, Crestview, Florida. I'm here with business pertaining to 5225 Cape Sandblast Road. First of all, please excuse my informal attire. I certainly do not mean any disrespect. I have a couple of medical conditions due to a couple of cancers that I've been battling, and I have a lot of hot flashes and other medical issues, so that I mean no respect, but I must dress very casual in this. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to say to all of you, I know what you've been through over here. Well, I didn't experience it myself. I went in with my son immediately after the hurricane in Panama City. He's a nurse at the hospital there, and we went in less than 24 hours after it hit, and had to extract the children that were in the hospital as well as some PTSD vets, and I know what the situation looked like. I've lived in the Crestview area my whole life, and we've experienced some very bad hurricanes in that area. But my prayers have been with you and will continue to be with you. I know it's a very difficult situation, but I'm enlightened by what I have seen over here. It looks like the government agencies and everyone is doing a very exceptional job. I've made a number of trips over here in the last 6 months. I did not come right after. We have a vacant lot in Mexico Beach and one out on the Cape that we purchased 10 years ago, and we were fortuitous and blessed that we did not have structures, and the adjacent houses came through on both lots extremely well. So, but again, my prayers are with you. I come before you today as a landowner here in Gulf County. I purchased the property approximately 9 years ago, and of course, I'm not a multimillionaire. My wife and I are educators, and we love this area. We've been coming over here for 10 years for vacation. We have a trip over here, a 10-day trip next week. We were here earlier this summer. We absolutely love your community. It's beautiful, and the people here that we have come in contact with have been very cordial. So we were attracted to this place and began to purchase some real estate in the area in hopes that when my wife retires, I'm a retired approximately 40-year educator from Okaloosa County, and when she retires in a few years, we hope to move over here. I was told when I purchased the lot that I was grandfathered in for an RV, a single RV, not an RV lot, okay? And this is a little bit lengthy, but I think I need to explain to you what has transpired prior. I'm sorry.
Hold on one second. Let's get a motion to extend this time.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, motion by
Let
Commissioner
me
Rogers.
say one other thing. I have 5 disabilities, 2 cancers, diabetes, a heart attack, some anxiety, and I'm deaf in my right ear.
Okay,
So
okay.
I may not understand. If you'll please speak up just a little bit.
All right, give us 1 second. We got a motion to extend your time, to give you more time to speak.
Okay.
All right, so hold on 1 second.
Thank you very
More
much.
time.
Thank you, sir.
All right, hold
Thank
on
you
1
very
second
much.
before you start. We got a motion by Commissioner Rogers, second by
second.
Commissioner McDaniel. All right, no opposition to that motion. Motion passes 4-0. Go ahead.
Okay, of course, we have a lot of, it's like everyone else, in property, there's a lot of expense involved in purchase taxes, realtors, closing cost, beach restoration, and, there's been a great deal of cost involved with this. I also have already prepaid my sewage and water tap, and I applied for an electrical permit because the grinder requires that, of course, and I contacted an electrician for installation of that. And first, let me say, I know you guys in the county office, Mr. Collinsworth and all the others here, you've had a lot of, your wagon's been loaded, okay? But I want you to understand too, I've been waiting for 10 years for this project, and I've invested in I did not come over here and get anyone's way because I didn't have structures on the Cape or at Mexico Beach. So I stayed away from it for a couple of months. And although prior to the hurricane, I had contacted a contractor, and I won't mention his name, we walked over the lot, looked at, and we very specifically, I mentioned that there were beach mice and limitations on the amount due to the vegetation and trees there. There were limitations that were involved in that. We left it at that. We did not talk anything about what the cost would be or anything. I just told him that only the front portion of that lot could be cleaned and that we had issues and guidelines. And I had paid Gina Johnson approximately $3,000 to draw up an environmental contract. I wanted to go through everything and make sure it was in line. And I spent that money on that. And the hurricane hits, okay? And I have to help my son who has a movement condition. He is a nurse, but the the roof fell in at Panama City, and after we got the people out of there, he was reassigned to Colorado, Denver, and I had to go out there to help him move. When I got the notification, I found out that the lot had been cleared. That FEMA was coming in here, and immediately the day I got back, I got a call that I needed to come over, that there was a problem with the lot. And I I came over and was shocked when I seen that the lot basically was pancaked by, and I will quote the contractor that I spoke with, he said that he contacted his brother, who got some individual who had just got out of jail, and this was around Christmas time, and he needed some money, and now the hurricane did a great deal of damage, okay? A great deal of damage, but this individual basically cleared the lot, and that is not what I told him to do. I put my hand on the Bible and take a lie detector's test. I did not tell that man to do that, didn't even tell him to proceed at the time. And in fact, he was gonna go ahead and clear my lot over at Mexico Beach, but I told him, no, there's a moratorium over there, and I hadn't got my permit. I told you I had to get a permit from, Gina was going through that process, and I hadn't even have that in hand. Well, it's already done. So I'm told that I have a $3,000, as a landowner, I paid the $3,000 fee. I was told that even though I didn't know anything about it, that it was my lot, and Mr. Collinsworth will vouch that I did pay the money for that. And even though I didn't think I should have, but I was told that I could not proceed with my RV lot till that was paid, so I paid it. And I do have an order to proceed here with the land clearing, and Gina went over all the electrical and plumbing, and I spent a lot of money in this whole process and was sincerely trying to take the appropriate avenue to make sure that everything was done in order. I want this lot to be an example to people who come into this county and see just what a single RV lot can look like. I'm gonna dress it up really nice. I'm kind of a neat-nick person. If you want to stick around, I'll show you some other properties that I have in my home, and I think things need to be kept well in order, and I'm not asking for an RV park here. It's a single one, but I'm going to make it nice. But I cannot proceed until I have electricity, and apparently something surfaced yesterday from the building department that there was some issue with, first I was told litigation, but it was a mix-up. It's mitigation, mitigation, that there was some issue with that. And I don't know what that is at this point. But, so I'm here today to find out about that and ask for your help and assistance in resolving this issue. Let me back up, and as another example, and I have documentations from all these people that, from Gina, from Mr. Collinsworth's office, and from a lady by the name of Christy Yancey, who was in Panama City, who came over in January and walked over the lot with me. And she is what I would refer to as a beach biologist / plants and animals. And she walked over and she told me that if I plant the plants that on the list that I had been given, that none of them were appropriate. The list was outdated and everything would die, and I need to establish irrigation there, which is why I need electricity also for a shallow well pump, among other things. But so with that said, I asked her to forward a copy to the county over here, and because I had been told by Mr. Aiken that ultimately the federal government was the ones that the county was concerned about coming in and saying, you done this or you're not doing this in the restoration process. And so with her being a biologist, she came over and told me that, she said, you need to wait and go over this list, and we can hopefully get you some free vegetation and plants and beach restoration. I have contacted them again yesterday, but I know I'm bouncing around here a lot, but I'm trying to cover all the bases and demonstrate to you that I from day one, I went by the law in every way that I know. Now, I'm not administrators in government. I'm a retired educator, a principal, and coach, and I've done some international research on school terrorism and violence, and that's my expertise. But this is the first time I've gone through a process. I did contract my own house out in Cretshaw, and I know you have a different environment over here, one which I dearly love and respect and want to help maintain. But I need to know what I'm doing wrong to not get this electrical permit.
All right, let's go to Mr. Collinsworth right here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Well, this situation's been going on since December. I've had many conversations with Mr. Cawthorn, his subcontractor that he used to clear the lot. We actually had a complaint. that somebody had cleared a lot, went out there and verified it, had meetings with both parties multiple times trying to resolve, which we normally don't get into. But the bottom line is, Mr. Cawthorn's the owner. His contractor, that's civil between him and his subcontractor. So he was fined like everybody else that has cleared the lot. We've had 2 or 3 or 4 of them. He paid his fine. He also hired his engineer to draw up the mitigation plans like everybody's required to do to receive a land clearing permit. And there's no issue with him getting an electric permit. He won't get final power put on that pole until his plants are planted. Just like everybody else that ever builds a house or does an RV, he's got his taps. As soon as it's hooked up and his stuff is planted, we don't mind a bit going out there and doing our final picks. He was sent emails this morning from Mr. Bailey and myself, and we forwarded them to the commissioners since the emails included commissioners this morning. So there is no issue except finishing up. Once they get planted, his engineer goes out there, submits us a letter saying that it's planted. We go out there and take our pictures and put them in the file, and we close it out. So everybody that has a land clearing permit, which is several out on the Cape, Indian Pass, they go through the same process. There's all it's got to do is finish. He's got his pad put in that was done up by his engineer. He can get his electric pole permit, and Mr. Bailey can correct me if I'm wrong, but before we release power to that pole, all of the plants have to be in as designed on that drawing. And as far as the plants dying, that has nothing to do with the county. The list that DEP has submitted us for a list of plants that will grow is what we have. His engineer picked those plants, and that's the ones that we just go out and count just to make sure that there's the same number of what they put in there. If there's an issue with the plants dying, then that needs to be taken up with who he hired to do it. But there's probably, I'd say 50 or 60 different species of plants that's on that list that's given to us by DEP, and they pick which ones that are planted. So as far as him, the electrician coming to pull a permit, there is no issue with that, but before final power will be turned on to that pole, the mitigation has to be in place. Thank you, Mr.
Mr.
Chairman.
Novak, you want to take it?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I know this issue's come up just recently. Fish and Wildlife, Ms. Yankis has been over here. We've been working with her, as you guys know, for several years on the critical habitat. This law has been placed on Gulf County's lap. So President Nixon signed it in '73. It's an endangered species. They've identified critical habitat. This law has been imposed on Gulf County to enforce. So I just want Mr. Cawthorn and other folks to know that this is not something Gulf County just imposed. That this has been now handed down from Fish and Wildlife. The county planning and building departments are using it, and there's third-party watch groups watching Gulf County, making sure that they do it. So I know that folks have a hard time with it, but the ordinance you adopted imposes this law and this fine, and compliance with it must be strict according to the federal government. So this didn't start at Gulf County. It started on the federal level, and it's now a mandate on Gulf County.
I was aware of that from
Yes, sir.
day one.
Come to the microphone, Ms. Cawthorn, so we can hear you, yeah.
I was aware of, and have been aware of that from day one. I was told that just a few years back that I think there'd been some restaurant that was putting out there that the whole area was covered, that I missed the deadline in applying for a waiver on that. But yes, I'm aware of everything that you said. I need to make sure I understand one thing, Mr. Collinsworth, are you saying that I can get electricity there to water? I want to put a shallow well down, okay? And in order to do that, and the sewer tap requires electricity. And I need to be here to work that. I'm spending $200 to $300 a night coming over here to stay, and I need to either rent, I don't own an RV. We have 2020 water view lots of Florida LLC, which we have established recently, and I have other waterfront properties in Florida. But I want to make sure that I have electricity for it. My wife also requires a breathing machine, and if we're over here working with that, and she has to have that for her medical conditions, I need electricity for that. So there are numerous considerations that I can't do a lot without electricity. So are you saying that I will be able to put the pole in, hook up the sewer, and get a shallow well put in, which require, so that I can make these trees less? Because Miss Yancey, who is a plant U.S. federal biologist, told me, she said there was nothing out here but scrubs, and frankly, she said, I think all of this was destroyed by the hurricane. I went ahead and paid the fine. It was not, I don't even know the guy who done it, but I had, I was told I had to pay it, so I didn't buck it. I bit the bullet and spent that extra $3,000. But I have a problem with going out there and planting trees that I'm told by a person who's an expert in beach vegetation. She said it was what I had on my lot was scrub oaks, and that there was nothing on that list that would be appropriate. And she pointed over to the ground and said, a lot of this is going to resurface and is greenery and regenerate upon its own. But I'm going to put palm trees in. I'm going to dress it up. I want it to look nautical. I want it to look very appealing, and to bring in customers, of course, but to enhance the beauty. So my question is, am I going to be able to go ahead and get an electricity there in order to do the things that I need to appropriately proceed and not have to do double work and planting the trees, then get the electricity, let the first bunch die, which she says is going to, and she studied this. I would consider her to be the expert. Again, her name is Christy Yancey, and she said, if you plant what they're telling you to plant, I assure you it's going to die, because none of that was here before the storm. And so,
Mr. Carlton, I thought they said, well, if you plant it, then you can get power, right?
Sorry?
They said if you plant it, you can get power, right? I mean, that's what Mr. Collinsworth is saying, right?
I'm asking about the
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
prior
Go ahead.
to the planting, so I can irrigate.
A couple things, because we've been back and forth with this. Gulf County has not told anybody what they have to plant. Their engineers is what designate.
Let me help you here, and I think the problem is, once that plan was submitted by that engineer to the planning department, you have to follow that plan. The problem, if you want to change your plants, you have to go back to the engineer. It's not up to the planning department to decide what plants that you plant. But if you submit a plan from your engineer, that plan has to be followed. This habitat is so critical, it affects the whole area for us. And we've had other people in the same situation that we couldn't let by. But what I'm saying is, am I right, Lee? Once that plan was submitted by the engineer, they've got to follow that plan.
Absolutely.
I just want to plant some plants that are acceptable that will live out there. And to me, I have a hard time understanding that I'm getting the cart before the horse here if I don't. When a plant goes in the ground, I just planted some on some other waterfront property I'm setting up RV lots in Okaloosa County. RVs are becoming very popular. They're very nice, and if you haven't seen one, but anyway, I was told immediately, I spent $1,500 on Arizona blue spruces. Water those plants, and when you put them in the ground, there needs to be water there for them. And the best water is shallow pump water. And I can't have that without electricity. I'm not trying to get around anything. I'm going to cover that place and probably more plants than what you're going to require. But I want to be set up to do it appropriately from day one.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Couple things. One, we hope the stuff's going to grow back. But what he has to plant is what doesn't grow back. That's where his RV's going to sit, his pad. That's what you have to mitigate. When you normally do this ahead of time, you submit what you're going to disturb. You cannot disturb anything outside of what that plan. Well, this was carpet clean from lot line to lot line. So we know some of this is going to grow back. What he has to plant is what he's going to disturb that's not going to come back, which is the roadway, the RV pad. All that can be put in. His electric pole can be put in today. Once his plants are planted and they go inspected, power will be turned on, called in the same day. So the plants will not be without water. All of this has to be put in before the planning department is going to sign off and release power to be called in, because if not, then it won't get done and then it will die. So all this can be done as soon as the plants are put in. The pole can already be put in. You call that inspection in, it gets inspected. We go out, we take our pictures. They call in power gets put on, they start watering. Your well can already be put down, connected to the pole, so the plants will not die for lack of water on the county's part. We do this every day with everybody, and we've not had one single problem yet. So you're probably gonna have to plant some plants that, from what you did disturb, that shouldn't have been disturbed. But if there's a problem with the listing of what plants, you need to go back to the engineer, because they, on your plan, they tell us exactly what kind of plant's gonna be there and how many, and that's what we approve, and that's what we go by.
And the ones that Ms. Johnson put in there are very beautiful, you know, the Florida, the native palm, and some others. But I've got this, quote, expert telling me, none of those were here when the storm.
Mr. Carlton.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Mr.
can, I
Carlton.
just need to ask the clerk, Ms. Roberts, do you have the clock running? Because we have to follow policy. So
Okay.
do
Let
you
me
have
ask you
the
this.
clock running on the
Mr.
additional 3 minutes?
Well, we're
Just have to make sure
gonna
you do that.
go ahead and cut it off. Mr. Carlton, just get with Mr. Collinsworth right after the meeting. I mean, because he pretty much knows exactly what you need to follow. I mean, there's no action from us,
Okay.
from the board.
All right, can I ask one question real quick?
Okay.
If the engineer changes those 3 plants and sends you an addendum to that, can we go with what the plant biologist recommended, or would that take a lot longer to do that? Or?
If it's on that approved list, the planning department has no problem what kind of plant it is.
Okay, thank you. Gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Good luck with everything over here.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, last thing, that was Senator Mumford called in, so he's working on that project, and hopefully we'll get a positive response
That's good.
on that transfer station.
All right. Anybody else, Mr. Topal? All right, this time we just like thank everyone for coming out to the board meeting. Entertain a motion, we adjourn.
moved.
Motion by Commissioner McCrone.
Take it.
Second by Commissioner Rogers. Any opposition?